Chapter 1731. Soon Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon set off. The two of them walked carefully in the forest. Lin Xian used his soul power and constantly observed the surroundings to avoid those powerful monster kings. He knew that he could not be careless in this forest. There were probably many terrifying monsters hibernating here. For example, the six-armed ape he encountered that night was definitely terrifying. Perhaps even a mighty figure might not be able to fight against it. If he encountered it, there was no way he could survive. The two of them walked for a day and finally entered the inner part of the forest. Along the way, thanks to the two of them being careful, they were not discovered by those powerful monster kings. However, at this moment, a roar suddenly came from ahead, shaking heaven and earth. That sound was very shocking and carried a monstrous aura. Hearing this sound, Lin Xian's scalp went numb, and he prepared to take a detour. However, at this moment, a few more roars came from ahead. Immediately after, a violent energy aura surged. Feeling these auras, Lin Xian stopped in his tracks with a bewildered expression. Someone is fighting. Moreover, these auras did not belong to humans. Could it be monsters? Lin Xian was stunned. He did not expect to encounter such a thing now. At the side, the dark red divine dragon was also a little excited. Kid, should we go and take a look? There are so many monsters fighting. I'm afraid there's a reason. Maybe it's for treasures. It was possible. They walked in this forest for a few days and did not find any treasures. Perhaps the monsters in front were really fighting for some kind of treasure. The two of them carefully walked forward. However, when they arrived at the scene, they were stunned because the battle in front had already ended. The surroundings were a mess. Monster aura filled the air and blood flowed like a river on the ground. The pungent smell of blood assaulted their nostrils. Lin Xian and the crimson divine dragon stepped on the broken trees and cracked ground as they carefully made their way forward. They discovered that there were a few huge corpses in front of them. Each of them was at the Monster King level and was extremely terrifying. At this moment, their bodies were all cut open and blood and internal organs flowed all over the ground. Evidently, he had been killed. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon were extremely shocked. Such powerful monster kings were killed. It seemed that it was another terrifying existence. The two of them didn't dare to stay any longer and wanted to leave. However, at this moment, a figure walked out from the cave ahead. It was a black bear with a single horn on its head. It looked extremely ferocious. On its body, its black fur flickered with a jet black light, flowing with a strange energy. Especially the horn on his forehead. It was like a black jade, sparkling and translucent. The energy contained within it was even more terrifying. Compared to the surrounding demonic beasts, he was not very big, only 3 meters tall. But at this moment, he was emitting an incomparably horrifying supreme aura. The black bear demon king was walking out of the cave. However, in the next moment, it stared at Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon with a ferocious look in its eyes. Lin Xian had goosebumps all over his body when he was being stared at like that. He sensed danger. According to his original plan, he should have withdrawn by now. But in the next moment he frowned. This was because he realized that although the black bear king in front of him was powerful, there was a terrifying crack on the left side of its back. Although the blood had coagulated, the crack was still very eye-catching. It was obvious that it was injured in the battle just now, and it seemed that the injury was not light. Otherwise, with this demonic beast's ferocious personality, it would have pounced on them immediately. It would not have issued a warning here. Perhaps there was a chance. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. The dark red divine dragon also waved its dragon claws excitedly. Kid, do you want to attack? That black bear king is injured. Attack. Lin Xian nodded. He was not willing to give up this opportunity. That was because he felt a strange energy in the cave. It should be some kind of treasure. In the next moment, Lin Xian took out the thousand-beast cauldron with a serious expression. The dark red divine dragon's body also glowed with a red light as it prepared to attack. Roar! Seeing that Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon were about to attack, the black bear king in front of them roared angrily. Its murderous aura instantly spread out. As a demonic beast king, and an extremely powerful one at that. It would not allow humans to provoke it. Therefore, in the next moment, it roared angrily and turned into a ray of black light, charging towards Lin Xian. However, halfway through, the Black Bear King's body suddenly stiffened. That was because the wound on its back had split open again. Blood gushed out, and even the eerie white bones were exposed. Roar! The Black Bear King roared in pain. Good chance. Lin Xian seized the opportunity and pushed the Thousand Beast Cauldron in his hand. Suddenly, the Thousand Beast Cauldron shone and shot out a ray of black light that flew forward. Boom! This ray of black light was like a black divine spear. It was extremely sharp. In an instant, it pierced through the Black Bear King, leaving a fist-sized wound on its body. Roar! The Black Bear King was injured again, and it became extremely frenzied. Its murderous aura soared into the sky. Its demonic chi turned into substantial smoke that quickly surged into the sky. However, at the same time, a red dragon tail, like a heavenly pillar, lashed out from the void. Boom! The Black Bear King's body trembled, and he was sent flying. That was because the dark red dragon's tail had sent him flying. It was obvious that the dark red divine dragon had attacked. Roar! Roar! After receiving two extremely powerful attacks in an instant, the Black Bear King's injured body became even weaker. At that moment, he was covered in blood and had become extremely frenzied. However, his ferocious nature had been stimulated. Instead of running away, he quickly pounced on Lin Xian. Boom! In an instant, he was in front of Lin Xian, and his terrifying black bear paw slammed down. In an instant, a pitch-black hole was formed in the void. This attack was too violent. Even though the Black Bear King was injured, it was still extremely terrifying. Buzz! Lin Xian did not want to take it head-on. He used the Heavenly Dragon's 8 steps, and turned into an afterimage, instantly dodging the attack. At the same time, his palm kept hitting the Thousand Beast Cauldron. Buzz! 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 The Thousand Beast Cauldron vibrated rapidly, and many pitch-black figures swam on top of it. Then, a black heavenly rock rushed out and flew towards the Black Bear King. The feathers in the sky turned into black sword chi. The black sword chi was extremely sharp, and it quickly slashed downwards. The Black Bear King waved his paw and unleashed a wave of energy that could topple mountains and overturn seas. It directly shattered the black sword chi that filled the sky. However, in the process, his back was hit by 2 more dragon claws. Suddenly, his huge body shook continuously, as if he would collapse at any time. Roar! The Black Bear King's eyes turned blood red. Then, he opened his bloody mouth and roared behind him. A sound wave rippled out, bringing with it a strange energy that surged towards the dark red divine dragon. The sound wave was too terrifying. It was even sharper than the sky blade. Chapter 1732. Roar! The dark red divine dragon's body glowed as his dragon blood surged. In the next moment he roared as well. An earth-shattering dragon roar rang out, carrying with it an unparalleled pressure as it clashed with the Black Bear King's sound waves. Although the dark red divine dragon's cultivation was not as strong as the Black Bear King's, his bloodline power far exceeded the Black Bear King's. Therefore, when the two sound waves collided, they were actually evenly matched. The sky surged as countless black cracks appeared. The two terrifying sound waves disappeared at the same time. However, at this moment, Lin Xian leaped high into the air, and the Thousand Beast Cauldron in his hand emitted an even brighter light. A strange energy fluctuation was emitted from the Thousand Beast Cauldron, and quickly rushed forward, enveloping the Black Bear King. The mysterious light was incomparably dark, as if it was going to suppress the Black Bear King. Roar! At this critical moment, the Black Bear King's hair stood on end. He let out an earth-shattering roar, and the horn on his forehead suddenly emitted light. The horn was originally jade-black in color. At this moment, mysterious patterns appeared on its surface. A terrifying aura instantly surged out. Whoosh! For a moment, the surrounding wind howled and dark clouds covered the sky. The scene was extremely terrifying. Then, a ray of light surged out from the horn, piercing through the void, and turning into an eternal ray of light. This ray of light was too terrifying. It directly tore apart the attack from the Thousand Beast Cauldron, and quickly blasted towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian's expression was solemn as his body swayed. He held the thousand-beast cauldron in one hand and clenched his other hand into a fist. A black dragon roared, carrying with it a black light that shook the heavens and earth. On the other side, the thousand-beast cauldron was spinning even faster. Then it suddenly enlarged like a black mountain, pressing down on the Black Bear King. Clang! In the next moment, it collided with the black light emitted by the horn, producing an earth-shattering sound. The void trembled, and a terrifying light burst forth. However, the thousand-beast cauldron, as a mid-grade Earth-class artifact, was too terrifying. It directly shattered all the attacks. The void instantly returned to calm, and the thousand-beast cauldron was still pressing down on the Black Bear King. The Black Bear King's expression finally changed, and he let out a terrified cry. However, he found that he could barely move his body. There was a mysterious power in the void that had completely shackled him. At this moment, a trace of fear finally appeared in his eyes. One had to know that it was no ordinary demon king. Its strength was extremely terrifying. Previously, so many demon monarchs had joined forces, but failed to kill him. But now this little human in front of him was actually a threat to his life. Boom! In the next moment, the thousand-beast cauldron descended and completely suppressed the Black Bear King. The ground sank, and the airwaves rolled. The surrounding forest collapsed in an instant. In fact, even the mountain peak in the distance was blasted apart by the energy. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that his opponent had been dealt with. He waved his hand and put away the thousand-beast cauldron. One had to admit that the Black Bear King was indeed a very powerful demonic beast. Fortunately, it had been severely injured. Otherwise, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon would not have been able to kill it so easily. Lin Xian summoned the Black Earth and stored the corpses of the demonic beasts. When these demonic beasts reached the demonic king level, it could be said that their entire bodies were treasures. Their flesh and blood contained powerful energy. Their scales and fur could be made into weapons and armor. There were also demon cores in their bodies, which were their energy essence and contained powerful energy. These were all very precious. After collecting all the demonic king corpses, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon looked ahead. There was a cave there. Lin Xian had already checked the Black Bear King's body and did not find any treasures. Thinking about it, the Black Bear King probably had not obtained anything from the cave. Therefore, he guessed that the treasure must be in the cave. Thinking of this, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon did not hesitate and walked forward. The cave was dark, but the light from Lin Xian's body was enough to illuminate the entire cave. In front of him, there were countless gravel, and among those gravel, there was a glow. It was very bright, and could be seen at a glance. Lin Xian waved his sleeve and blew away all the gravel. Then the ball of light appeared in front of him. Seeing that thing, Lin Xian was stunned. As for the dark red divine dragon, it screamed, "Dragon crystal! Kid, this is a dragon crystal! Ha 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 ha! We're rich!" The dark red divine dragon was like an old monster as it screamed crazily. Lin Xian was also shocked. He did not expect to find a dragon crystal here. Dragon crystals were a type of crystal energy. Its value was equivalent to divinity crystals, and it even exceeded divinity crystals. One had to know that there were spirit veins in heaven and earth that would form ordinary subdivinity crystals and supreme-grade subdivinity crystals. They would even form divinity crystals. In addition to spirit veins, there were also dragon veins. That was something even more terrifying than spirit veins. Dragon veins naturally formed dragon crystals, which were even rarer than divinity crystals. Those powerful seeker spirit masters could cut out divinity crystals, but very few could cut out dragon crystals, because they were too precious and too rare. Lin Xian did not expect to find a dragon crystal here. It was indeed shocking. That dragon crystal was as big as a fist and shone with incomparably bright light. Every strand of it contained a powerful energy. Those rays of light were like divine clouds, illuminating the entire void. Good stuff. Lin Xian's heart was also beating wildly. With a wave of his palm, he held the dragon crystal in his hand. Presumably, those monster kings outside were fighting for this dragon crystal. We shouldn't stay here for long. Let's hurry up and leave, Lin Xian said quickly. The dark red divine dragon nodded. He knew that the tremors here had already alarmed the other monster kings in the forest. It probably wouldn't be long before those powerful monster kings rushed over. One or two of them were fine, but if there were a few more, they wouldn't be able to leave at all. Therefore, the two of them did not hesitate, and quickly moved and left this place. Sure enough, not long after they left, a few huge figures appeared nearby again. Each of them was incomparably terrifying. Their killing intent was monstrous, stirring up the wind and clouds. In the end, even the six-armed divine ape from that day appeared. With a stomp of its golden feet, the entire ground trembled. Countless birds quickly soared into the sky. The surrounding wild beasts trembled and all fell to the ground. Even though Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon had left for a long time, they could still vaguely hear that angry roar. Exciting, it was too exciting. If they were any later, they wouldn't be able to leave at all. In fact, they wouldn't even be able to obtain this incomparably precious dragon crystal. This thing must not be known to others. Otherwise it would attract endless disaster. Therefore, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon planned to absorb it first. After finding a relatively remote mountain range, Lin Xian used sword qi to open a cave abode. Then, the dark red divine dragon set up several array formations and directly covered the entire cave abode. Chapter 1733. After finding a relatively remote mountain range, Lin Xian used his sword qi to open up a cave abode. Then, the dark red dragon set up several formations and covered the entire cave abode. The next moment, Lin Xian took out the fist-sized dragon crystal. He placed the dragon crystal on the ground, and the dark red dragon began to set up a spirit-gathering formation. Through the formation, the dragon crystal's power was transferred to the two of them. This way, it could speed up their absorption. Soon, the dragon crystal emitted a bright light, forming rays of light that surrounded Lin Xian and the dark red dragon. If anyone saw this scene, they would definitely go crazy. This was a rare treasure. Everyone would go crazy. Even almighties would not be an exception. However, this thing now belonged to Lin Xian. Feeling the rich energy around him, Lin Xian did not hesitate. He quickly activated the longevity technique to absorb the energy inside. The rays of light that filled the sky seemed to be attracted and quickly rushed into Lin Xian's body. For a time, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon both entered a state of cultivation. In the blink of an eye, a night had passed. The fist-sized dragon crystal was now half its original size. Lin Xian and the dark red dragon's bodies were completely enveloped by the bright rays of light. They were like two jade cocoons, emitting a hazy light. Another 3 days passed. The entire cave abode was surrounded by rays of light, and the dragon crystal was still the size of a walnut. At the side, the dark red dragon opened his eyes, and the aura on his body suddenly erupted. He had successfully recovered to a 4-star king. Therefore, he did not absorb anymore. Instead, his body swayed and he retreated. However, on the other side, Lin Xian was still cultivating. The light on his body became more and more vigorous, and his aura became more and more powerful. However, he was still a 3-star king and did not break through. After another 2 days, the dragon crystal directly became the size of a fingernail, and the light became incomparably dim. Most of the energy inside had been absorbed by Lin Xian. Lin Xian also opened his eyes. His gaze was incomparably sharp, and his aura was much stronger than before. Moreover, his combat strength had also increased greatly. However, his cultivation was still a 3-star king. Lin Xian looked at the dim dragon crystal inside. He knew that he needed a lot of energy to break through. However, he did not expect that he would need so much energy. An extremely precious dragon crystal could not help him break through. One had to admit that the dragon sword soul was too terrifying. If it were any other king, they would have broken through. However, Lin Xian did not break through. However, his combat strength had greatly. Now, even if he encountered a genius cultivator like Guo Chuanfei from the Holy Land, he would be able to kill him even without a sneak attack. Moreover, ordinary Holy Land cultivators were no match for him at all. Perhaps only those top Holy Land geniuses were worthy of fighting him. At the side, the dark red dragon also said, "Kid, don't be discouraged. The great dragon sword soul is extremely terrifying. Dragon, 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 dragon crystal. The dark dragon, 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 dragon said dragon, dragon. The problem is the dragon, 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 dragon." Lin Xian knew this as well, so he decided to set off again. He believed that there must be other dragon crystals in this forest. As long as he found another one, he would definitely be able to break through. Then, Lin Xian and the dark dragon continued to search the forest. However, it had to be said that this forest was really too big. It was boundless like a green ocean. Moreover, the demon kings here were too terrifying. They had met a few in the past few days, and their strength was not inferior to the six-armed divine ape. It was terrifying. Lin Xian and the others had to take a detour. In front of them was the lair of a terrifying demon king. Just the demonic aura at the edge made Lin Xian and the dark dragon's scalps tingle. Even if an almighty came, they would not dare to enter this place. Lin Xian and the dark dragon did not want to cause trouble, so they took a detour. Half a day later, Lin Xian found a waterfall in front of them. Near the waterfall, there was a bamboo house. The bamboo house was very exquisite. The bamboo on it was emitting a faint glow. Obviously, the bamboo house was not made of ordinary bamboo. There was a grassland near the bamboo house. Countless flowers grew there, and there was a bamboo forest around it. It was a peaceful scene. Seeing the bamboo house, Lin Xian slowed down. His expression was solemn, because the bamboo house meant that there were humans. However, he did not know if they were primitive residents or martial artists from other sections. Sure enough, a figure walked out of the bamboo house. It was a young man. He was tall and handsome. However, there was a coldness between his brows, causing people to tremble with a single glance. The young man was wearing a five-colored robe that flickered with light. Someone from the Five Elements sect. Lin Xian frowned when he saw this. He did not expect to meet someone from the Five Elements sect here. However, the next moment he was even more shocked, because another figure walked out of the bamboo house. This figure was very familiar. It was the half-demon woman from the Demon Imperial Palace, Zhao Tianxia. However, he did not expect Zhao Tianxia to be together with someone from the Five Elements sect. Zhao Tianxia and the handsome man exchanged a few words, then entered the bamboo house again. The young man was still standing in front, as if waiting for something. Lin Xian was curious. He did not know what they were doing. Therefore, he and the dark red dragon hid their auras and quietly squatted at the side. He wanted to see what Zhao Tianxia wanted to do. Not long after, there was the sound of something breaking through the air. Then, two figures quickly rushed over from afar. Soon they arrived near the bamboo house. They were also two young disciples. The two of them appeared and quickly bowed to the handsome young man. The handsome young man asked in a deep voice, "How is it? Did you find out? The Sea of Death is very terrifying. I'm afraid less than 10% of the people can reach this continent. Anyway, those who could reach this continent were not weak." The two disciples quickly said. After hearing this, the handsome young man nodded slightly. Those ordinary rogue cultivators probably can't reach it. However, those peerless forces, peerless sacred grounds, and clan of the ancients are not to be trifled with. They won't die in the Sea of Death. They will definitely reach it. However, they haven't appeared yet. I wonder what they are doing. The handsome young man frowned slightly. Then, he turned to look at the bamboo house behind him. A glint appeared in his eyes. That peerless face is really rare in the world. If I can take her in, it will be a happy thing. The handsome young man whispered. Chapter 1734. The two young disciples behind him laughed and said, "Senior brother, with your methods, it's easy if you want it." The handsome young man smiled when he heard this. "You should know that I like to be willing. I heard that Miss Zhao has a strong enemy on the island. If we can kill him, Miss Zhao might throw herself into his arms." The other two disciples laughed when they heard this. "Don't worry, senior brother. He's just a small warrior. How can he fight against our Five Elements sect? As long as we find that kid, we'll tear him to pieces." Their conversation was completely captured by Lin Xian. His face darkened when he heard this. From the looks of it, These people were from the Five Elements sect, and in order to curry favor with Zhao Tianxia, they wanted to take his life. They're really obsessed. Lin Xian snorted and quietly retreated. With Zhao Tianxi's personality, even if these people from the Five Elements sect succeeded, she would not throw herself into his arms. Instead, she would suck their blood essence dry. More importantly, Lin Xian wasn't going to sit around and wait for his death. He had absorbed the power of the dragon crystal, and his strength had increased greatly. Even if these people from the Five Elements sect outnumbered him, he would not be fearless. Since these people dared to target him, they would have to pay the price. Lin Xian would not hesitate to make a move, but he would not be rash either. The Five Elements sect was an unparalleled sect. Looking at the handsome young man in front, he must be a genius in the Five Elements sect. Moreover, there were many disciples from the Five Elements sect around. Therefore, Lin Xian first had to figure out the number of warriors on the other side. Other than Zhao Tianxia, the handsome young man, and the two disciples in front of him, there were 4 more disciples from the Five Elements sect hiding in the surroundings. Presumably, these people were guarding in secret. Fortunately, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon were not careless. Otherwise, they would have been discovered by the 4 hidden warriors. Therefore, Lin Xian decided to take action and get rid of the 4 people in the dark first. Lin Xian, the dark red dragon, the snow-white monkey, and the 2 sword shadows moved quickly. The assassination this time had to be a one-hit kill. They could not give the other party a chance to call for help. Lin Xian was the first to act. He executed the heavenly dragon's 8 steps silently like a ghost. The 9 nether devil sword in his hand emitted a cold light. In an instant he arrived near a hidden martial artist. As he waved his sword, light flashed. With the sword piercing his vitals, the hidden martial artist's eyes widened. He wanted to make a sound, but he found that he couldn't. Plop! That martial artist fell to the ground. Then Lin Xian flicked his finger, and a black flame surged out, instantly incinerating that martial artist. Not a single drop of blood was left in the sky. At the same time, the other 3 parties also made their moves. The dark red dragon had just broken through to become a 4-star king, and was very powerful. Therefore it killed the other party easily. On the other hand, the snow-white little monkey cooperated with the 2 sword deity phantoms, and also silently killed the other 2 hidden warriors. In an instant, the hidden warriors around the bamboo house were all eliminated by Lin Xian. Next it was the 5-star sect's martial artists in front. In the next moment, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon looked at each other and made their moves quickly. A shocking sword chi, a terrifying dragon claw, and 2 sword god phantoms charged forward at high speed. This change was very sudden. In fact, the Five Elements sect's martial artists in front did not even react. In an instant, these terrifying attacks arrived in front of them. One of the disciples did not react at all. Under the attack of this energy, he directly exploded. However, the handsome young man quickly retreated with the other person. Not good. Senior brother, there's an assassination. The disciple's face turned ugly. The handsome young man's face was also cold. Men kill him. In the end, the surroundings were quiet, and there was no response at all. Stop shouting. They've already gone to hell. You'll join them soon. Hearing this, the handsome young man and the other disciple's face turned ugly. Not good. Our people have been eliminated. Damn it. Who are you? How dare you attack our Five Elements sect? If I don't attack you, should I wait for you to attack me? Lin Xian sneered, and appeared in front of them with the dark red dragon. It's you. You're that damn thief. The handsome young man from the Five Elements sect saw Lin Xian, and his face immediately turned gloomy. He naturally knew that this was the powerful enemy that Zhao Tianxia had mentioned. This was also the target that he was going to kill next. However, he did not expect that the other party would attack before him. Good boy. I didn't go to you, but you actually took the initiative to deliver yourself to me. How dare you kill our Five Elements sex people? You really deserve to die. Kneel down obediently and accept your death. I can give you a quick death. Otherwise, I'll let you know what it means to live a life worse than death. The handsome young man sneered and his face regained his confidence. The reason for that was because he had already seen 3 silhouettes rushing over from afar. They were the disciples of the 5 Elements sect. The other person also laughed. Haha, you didn't take the path to heaven and barged into hell. Since you dared to kill our 5 Elements sect's people, today will be the day you die. Kill. Seeing that there were more people coming, Lin Xian frowned. However, in the next moment he decisively made his move. His entire body turned into a terrifying sword light, and quickly rushed forward. At the same time, the dragon sword field was released and quickly expanded, forming a terrifying sword principle world. With a stab of the sword, the world lost its color. What? So powerful? The 5 Elements sect's disciple turned pale with fright. Even the handsome young man's face turned solemn. He did not expect that the other party would have such a terrifying sword chi. However, as a genius of the 5 Elements sect, he was not a useless person. Therefore, he immediately shouted and attacked with all his strength. A dazzling brilliance burst out from his hands. Boundless divine power surged out, forming 2 huge yellow mountains that pressed down on the ground. Boom! The void shook as the 2 yellow mountains collided with the dazzling sword light, and caused a huge explosion. However, Lin Xian's sword chi was too powerful. In the end, it still tore the 2 yellow mountains apart. However, this also gave the handsome young man a chance. His body swayed and once again retreated to a safe distance. At the same time, a figure flashed out from the bamboo house. Zhao Tianxia also came out. When she saw Lin Xian, she immediately gnashed her teeth. Damn thief, how dare you chase after me? Miss Zhao, don't worry. Let's work together and kill him. Moreover, we have more people. This kid won't be able to escape today. Okay. Chapter 1735. What? You want to bully me with numbers? Come. I'll teach you a lesson. Little girl, come here. Let me teach you how to behave. The dark red dragon pointed at Zhao Tianxia and sneered. Damn snake, you're courting death. As a genius disciple of the Fey Imperial Palace, she had never been provoked like this. Therefore, she moved her palm, which turned into a silver ray of light, and slapped at the dark red dragon. The dark red divine dragon laughed loudly without fear. His body flickered, and he dodged like a bolt of red lightning. At the same time, he waved his dragon claws, forming a strong gust of wind that swept out in all directions. At the same time he said loudly, Kid, leave this little girl to me. As he spoke, he raised his hands and formed 2 arrays, which enveloped the 3 cultivators flying over. Seeing that the dark red dragon had temporarily restrained Zhao Tianxia and trapped the 3 people who came to help, Lin Xian smiled. It seems that your advantage in numbers won't work. Lin Xian looked at the handsome man in front of him and said coldly. The handsome man, Li Wei, had a gloomy expression. He did not expect the 4-legged snake beside him to have such strength, to be able to restrain Zhao Tianxia. Not only that, the people he came to help were also trapped by the array. It seemed that it would be impossible to break it in a short time. However, he still sneered. Kid, do you think you can beat me in a one-on-one fight? You're too naive. I'll let you know the power of the Pentaphase sect. Then he turned to the cultivator next to him and said, Go and help them break the array. Yes, senior brother. The disciple quickly moved to help the 3 people behind him. Only Lin Xian and Li Wei of the Pentaphase sect were left in the field. With a cold snort, Li Wei's body emitted a strong light that swept out in all directions like a stormy sea. The powerful aura caused the entire void to tremble. The next moment he punched out. Li Wei's movements were not very fast, but the power was abnormally terrifying. It was like a sea flying in the air. The wind was strong and mighty, and the blue light was like the waves of the sea, incomparably turbulent, surging forward. That berserk aura was as unstoppable as before. Lin Xian felt the pressure as well. He realized that the punch was like an ocean, boundless and vast beyond compare. Although it was just a punch, it completely sealed off all escape routes. He could only face it. However, Lin Xian would not be afraid, even if he were to face it head-on. He shouted coldly and punched out. The apocalyptic black dragon fist carrying a violent aura. The black dragon roared, and strong winds blew, as if it wanted to tear everything apart. Boom! In the next moment, The two terrifying fists collided, and a terrifying storm swept out in all directions. The two of them were locked in a stalemate in the air, flashing nonstop. On the other side, Li Wei's expression was solemn. He did not expect that his opponent would be able to block his punch. It was like a real sea. It was terrifying. The blue light that filled the sky instantly shrouded the black fist shadows. The void trembled quickly. The ground cracked, and terrifying cracks appeared and spread into the distance. As for those black fist shadows, they were completely engulfed in an instant. Seeing this, Li Wei laughed maniacally. Kid, no matter how powerful you are, you can't resist my 5 elements fist. 5 elements fist. Hearing this, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Li Wei's fist technique was indeed terrifying. It should be one of the 5 elements sect's unique techniques. Lin Xian guessed right. It was indeed a unique technique. The 5 elements fist contained the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The blue fist earlier was the water element fist of the 5 elements fist. It was terrifying. It could swallow everything. Li Wei definitely had the right to be arrogant. Kid, provoking me is the biggest mistake you've made in your life. Today, I'll let you know what regret is. Li Wei sneered and waved his fist again. The blue light was vast and covered the entire sky. It was like countless thousands of feet of waves rushing down. Watch me break your 5 elements fist. Lin Xian also let out a long roar. His eyes shone brightly. His aura became violent again, as if he was the king of destruction. Thunderbolt Dragon. He swung his fists, opening and closing them wide. 2 furious black dragons carrying countless lightning bolts soared into the sky. Boom, boom, boom. This scene was too terrifying. It was as if 2 giant dragons were rampaging in the boundless sea. Their huge bodies rushed forward and tore everything apart. As for the black lightning, it pierced through the sea that filled the sky. This scene was like a raging dragon coming out of the sea. In the end, the sea and the huge dragon shadows disappeared in the sky. The wind between heaven and earth also quickly dissipated. Lin Xian and Li Wei's figures appeared in front of him again. Lin Xian's black hair fluttered. His eyes shone brightly. The blood in his body was surging. The great dragon sword soul was quickly awakening. To be honest, he had not met such an opponent for a long time. The person in front of him seemed to be even more terrifying than Guochuanfei. Such an opponent was worthy of his full strength. On the other side, Li Wei's face was gloomy. He did not expect that the other party could resist his water element fist. It was really shocking. It was hard to believe that the other party, a lone cultivator, could reach such a level. However, he had already decided to kill the other party today. Otherwise, it would be a disaster in the future. He, Li Wei, would not leave such a threat alive. With a cold snort, Li Wei's aura rose again. At the same time, the water blue turned into a fiery red. A terrifying flame aura rushed out and enveloped the entire space. With a punch, the sky was filled with flames. It turned into countless flames and swept forward. Fire element fist. After the water element fist, Li Wei used the fire element fist. This fire element fist was even more terrifying. The heat wave seemed to swallow the sky and burn everything. In an instant, Lin Xian's black fists were all burning. Humph! Lin Xian snorted. The sword aura on his body soared into the sky and turned into a sharp sword light that slashed forward. The terrifying sword light swept in all directions and suppressed the flames. What? It can actually suppress my fire element fist. Li Wei was shocked when he saw this scene. His fire element fist was extremely terrifying. Even an ordinary 6-star king could not resist it. However, the other party's sword light was so strange that it could actually suppress his fire element fist. In fact, even the flames that filled the sky started to dim. Damn it! Li Wei snorted and changed his fist again. The flames in the sky disappeared, and a majestic mountain appeared. It collapsed in all directions and carried a violent force as it fell mercilessly. Earth element fist. Once this fist technique was used, Li Wei's fist became extremely heavy. Chapter 1736. Earth element fist. Li Wei's fists became extremely heavy as soon as he used this fist technique. They were like ancient demonic mountains that kept descending. Those majestic mountains were indeed terrifying. The sword light in the sky was bent from the pressure. This scene was too terrifying. The entire space sank, as it could not withstand this power. Lin Xian's expression was also solemn. He used the heavenly dragon's 8 steps. His figure was like a ghost as he kept changing his position. He quickly dodged those terrifying mountains. Between heaven and earth the void shook. The earthy yellow light was incomparably heavy, as if a divine mountain from the 9 heavens had descended. That weight gave Lin Xian a great sense of danger. It was as if it wanted to completely suppress him. Dragon Shadow Rampage. Lin Xian used the Armageddon Black Dragon Fist again, and used a terrifying ultimate skill. Boundless black dragon shadows quickly appeared, roaring in the void, and then rushed into the sky. Giant dragon-carrying mountains. One after another, huge black dragons spiraled into the sky, lifting up the huge mountains in the sky, and rushing straight into the clouds. That incomparably terrifying fist of earth was also neutralized by this move. This scene made Li Wei's face turn even uglier. The other party had given him too many surprises. He was clearly a small itinerant cultivator, not a martial artist from any top sect. However, he was able to break his 5-element fist. It was indeed unbelievable. Not only was the other party's sword chi incomparably sharp, but his fist technique was even more violent, as if it could destroy everything in time. He had never heard of such a fist technique before. Indeed, very few people could master the Armageddon Black Dragon Fist. If Lin Xian did not have the Great Dragon Sword Soul, he would not have been able to master such a terrifying fist technique. However, after fighting for so long, how could he stop now? Therefore, he shouted coldly and attacked again ruthlessly. Metal Element Fist. Golden light shone in the sky, covering the entire sky. Li Wei's aura became incomparably sharp at this moment. It was as if he was a god of war. Between heaven and earth, there was golden light everywhere. It was like a golden sword that swept in all directions. It was overwhelming and incomparably sharp. Like a divine weapon, it charged towards Lin Xian. This was the Metal Element Fist. Once it was used, it was incomparably terrifying. Lin Xian's expression turned grave when he sensed the sharp aura. He was not careless at all. He quickly formed a seal with his palms, and a golden heavenly rock also rushed out. The heavenly pung grew bigger with the wind and filled the void. Its entire body shone with golden light. Not only that, but those golden feathers also turned into countless sharp sword chis that swept forward. 108,000 swords. The terrifying sword light was like a surging river gushing down. It collided with the opponent's fist of metal. Boom! The collision between the two caused a huge collision in the void. Countless bolts of lightning continuously descended. These two terrifying energies clashed with each other, causing terrifying cracks to appear in the void one after another. This scene was too frightening. Even the 5 Elements sect martial artists who were fighting in the distance had a drastic change in expression. Zhao Tianxia was also paying close attention with a solemn expression. Li Wei's face darkened. He did not expect his opponent's sword chi to be so sharp, even surpassing his fist of metal. He couldn't believe it. One had to know that he was very confident in his fist of metal. It was a fist technique with extremely terrifying spiritual energy. Once it was used, it could even kill an ordinary 6-star king. But now, it was unable to shatter his opponent's sword chi. Damn it, I don't believe it. Break for me. Li Wei roared crazily, and the golden light on his body shone even brighter. Suddenly, golden fists appeared in the void one after another. They carried extremely terrifying energy and fiercely blasted towards Lin Xian. The violent energy shook violently, shattering everything in the surroundings. Lin Xian also let out a long roar, and the sword chi on his body became even sharper. 108,000 swords, each extremely terrifying. They were like real dragons roaring in the void. Boom! 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 The entire space was completely pierced by the terrifying sword chi. Boom! Li Wei's expression changed drastically. He felt incomparable pain all over his body, as if a mountain had crashed into him. He kept retreating. With every step he took, a huge crack would appear on the ground. After retreating for more than 10 steps, the entire ground was completely cracked by him. There were even a few sword scars on his body. It was extremely terrifying. On the other side, Lin Xian stood tall and straight. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and he was unscathed. Seeing this scene, Zhao Tianxia and the other 5 Elements sect disciples in the distance all changed their expressions. They did not expect Li Wei to be at a disadvantage in this battle. This was simply too unbelievable. One had to know that Li Wei was a genius martial artist of their 5 Elements sect. He had even killed a 6-star king. His strength could be said to be extremely terrifying. But they did not expect him to be suppressed now. Li Wei's expression was even more ferocious. Damn it, impossible. How can his sword qi be so powerful? It can actually break my metal element fist. He gritted his teeth, unable to believe what was happening in front of him. Lin Xian said in a deep voice, I have to say that the 5 Elements fist is indeed extremely powerful. It's a type of ultimate technique that can pierce through heaven and earth. But it's a pity that you haven't mastered it. So you'll definitely lose this battle. Impudent. Damn brat, you're too arrogant. Don't think that you can win just because you've suppressed me. Let me tell you, I still have an ultimate move. Li Wei roared angrily. His opponent actually said that he had not mastered the 5 Elements fist. This was really infuriating. In the next moment, he used the 5 Elements fist again and attacked wildly. Lin Xian waved his hand, and the dragon sword realm directly enveloped his opponent. Thousands of terrifying sword qi crisscrossed. It turned into a silver river and blasted his opponent's body. Poof! Not long after, Li Wei's body was sent flying again, crashing into a distant mountain. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and there were many sword wounds on his body. His hair was disheveled, and he looked extremely miserable. Damn brat, just you wait. Li Wei gritted his teeth, feeling indignant. But this time he did not attack. Instead, he turned around and fled into the distance. At the same time, he also sent a voice transmission to Zhao Tianxia, asking him to leave with him. Humph! Zhao Tianxi's expression was extremely ugly. He did not expect Li Wei to run away. However, he also quickly retreated, because now he was no match for Lin Xian. The two of them fled quickly. At the same time, they attacked wildly and shattered the array set up by the dark red divine dragon. Together with the remaining 4 disciples of the 5 Elements sect, they fled into the distance. Trying to escape, Lin Xian sneered. Then he moved and quickly chased after them. The dark red divine dragon also laughed strangely. He waved his dragon force and followed. Ha 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 ha, little girl, now you know how powerful I am. If you obediently become my human pets, I might be in a good mood and let you go. Otherwise, you're dead meat. Chapter 1737. Be obedient and be my human pets. And maybe I'll let you go if I'm in a good mood. Otherwise, you're dead. He yelled and screamed like an old monster. When Zhao Tianxia heard this, he was so angry that he almost went crazy. Her legs went soft, and she almost fell. Ah, damn you, snake. I'll catch you and tear you to pieces. Zhao Tianxia roared madly, but he did not dare to stay. In the next moment, they entered a dense forest and disappeared. Lin Xian's figure flashed as he used the heavenly dragon's 8 steps. However, he found that this forest was too strange. He could not accurately capture the other party's tracks. This primeval forest was very mysterious, and there was even a faint purple mist surrounding it. Not only did the mist block one's vision, but it also interfered with one's soul power. Therefore, after entering this forest, Li Wei and the others had completely disappeared. Lin Xian frowned, but he still followed. He had to get rid of Zhao Tianxia today. Otherwise, who knew how many more enemies she would bring to him in the future. Therefore, he and the dark red dragon walked inside. At first he found some monsters nearby. He even witnessed a battle with his own eyes. A 20-meter-long crocodile with a murderous aura was hiding in the swamp. It suddenly dragged a white jade elephant into the swamp. The white jade elephant struggled madly, causing the ground to tremble, but it could not break free. Soon the violent tremors disappeared. The white jade elephant was killed, and its blood dyed the ground red. This set off the danger of this forest even more. Roar! Suddenly, a crocodile stretched out from the ground and bit at Lin Xian. The situation was exactly the same as before. Humph! Lin Xian snorted. He was not the white jade elephant. He would not be dragged into the swamp. His right leg kicked out like a coiling dragon. Boom! A violent vibration sounded and even the ground shook. The mutated crocodile was kicked away. Seeing this, the surrounding crocodiles that wanted to attack suddenly stopped. It seemed that the human in front of them was not to be trifled with. They had plenty of food if they wanted, so there was no need to get into trouble. Therefore these crocodiles all walked away. Lin Xian coldly snorted and set off again. Gradually, he frowned because he realized that the purple mist around him was getting thicker and thicker. Even the air seemed to have a corrosive quality. With a wave of his hand, streams of sword qi revolved around his body, resisting the corrosion. At the side, the dark red divine dragon's dragon blood also surged, and a layer of red light rose from its body. Kid, be careful. The yin qi here is heavy. I'm afraid there are some undead creatures here. Lin Xian nodded with a solemn expression. This was not the first time he had seen such a place. Back in Feng Mountain, he had seen a similar environment. In such an environment, it was most likely for those kinds of undead creatures to appear. For example, zombies and skeletons. I'm afraid there will be some here as well. After all, there were killings every day in this primeval forest. There were corpses of demonic beasts everywhere. In addition, in this environment, it would be strange if there were no zombies or skeletons. Sure enough, as he walked forward, he found a pile of white bones floating in front of him. The small ones were 3 to 4 meters long, and the big ones were 20 to 30 meters long. These white bones were scattered on the ground casually, and from the looks of it, they had been there for quite some time. Lin Xian stepped on them, and immediately, the white bones turned into a pile of white powder and merged into the swamp. Gradually the surroundings darkened. The dark red divine dragon shrunk its neck. Kid, let's leave. This place is dark. I'm afraid there will be changes at night. Moreover, those people from the Five Elements sect have entered here. I'm afraid they might not be able to leave. All right. Lin Xian nodded. He also felt that the atmosphere was a little heavy. Therefore, he did not want to stay in such a place for too long. The two of them turned around and were about to leave. However, at this moment, an angry roar came from afar, followed by a low voice. There was a battle. Lin Xian frowned, but the dark red divine dragon's eyes lit up. Judging by this voice, it should be a human. Could it be those people from the Five Elements sect? Let's go take a look. Originally, the two of them had already left, but they did not expect to find new clues. Anyway, that distance was not far for them, so they might as well go and take a look. If it was really the people from the Five Elements sect, then they would take care of them. In the next moment, the two of them moved happily and ran forward. Sure enough, it was the people from the Five Elements sect in front of them. What they were fighting was a group of white bone creatures. Those white bone creatures had strange shapes, but without exception, they were all made of bones. Although they were white bone creatures, their speed was extremely fast. They were like white lightning, constantly attacking the people from the Five Elements sect. The people from the Five Elements sect roared and counterattacked, colliding with the other party's attack, making a low sound. Humph! In front, Li Wei's face was gloomy. He roared and the Five Elements fist rushed out quickly. Monstrous flames appeared, illuminating the sky. A fiery red fist fiercely blasted forward, sending a group of white bone creatures flying. Furthermore, the power of the flames they carried with them was burning them. On the other side, Zhao Tianxia also waved his finger, and a silver light pierced through the void like a demon god's spear. It pierced through those white bone creatures. With the help of these two experts, the group of white bone creatures was quickly defeated. However, they were not happy, because the surrounding swamp fluctuated again. 6 figures crawled out from the ground again. This time, it was no longer white bone creatures but zombies. The 6 zombies were incomparably tall. Their faces were ferocious, and their bodies emitted a terrifying aura. The clothes on their bodies were very old and tattered. As soon as the 6 zombies appeared, they roared and pounced crazily at the people from the Five Elements sect. Scram! Li Wei roared and directly rushed out with the fist of fire, sending one of the zombies flying. However, what was shocking was that the zombie that was sent flying stood up again, and the clothes on its body were even more tattered. However, it did not suffer any damage. What? How is this possible? The people from the Five Elements sect were extremely shocked, and their scalps went numb. That was the Fist of Fire. It was so terrifying that even a 6-star king would not be able to withstand it. However, the zombie in front of them was unharmed. This was simply too unbelievable. On the other side, Zhao Tianxia also roared. The silver light turned into sharp saber lights and slashed the surrounding zombies, making clanging sounds. Sparks flew in all directions, and the void shook, but it did not have much effect. The silver light only left shallow white marks on the zombies' bodies. It could not penetrate them at all. Damn it, how can this be? Chapter 1738. Damn it, how could this be? I can't pierce through them? Impossible, how can they be so powerful? Everyone's faces were ugly. They discovered that these 6 zombies were much more terrifying than the skeletal creatures from before. The other party's attacks were not particularly fierce, and their speed was not particularly fast either. However, that defense was simply too strong. It was as if their bones were made of divine gold and iron, and they were not damaged at all. Therefore, the people of the Five Element sect were so angry that they roared crazily. To be honest, Lin Xian, who was hiding in the dark and observing, was also extremely shocked. He had experienced the power of the Fist of Fire before. That valiant power shocked him to the core. Moreover, he knew that even a 6-star king might not be able to resist it. However, these zombies were not injured at all. It was indeed shocking. However, soon, the corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. That was because he had already decided to attack. In front of him, the people of the Five Element sect were fighting with the 6 zombies. The commotion was extremely terrifying. However, suddenly, Li Wei frowned because his heart was beating wildly, as if he had a bad premonition. In the next moment, his figure retreated rapidly. However, at this moment, the void where he was originally standing was directly cut open, and a black crack appeared. Terrifying killing intent spread out in all directions, as if ice had arrived. He actually dodged it. Lin Xian held the demonic sword in his hand and appeared. To be honest, he was also extremely surprised. He did not expect the other party to be so vigilant. Damn brat, it's actually you. When Li Wei saw the other party, his expression immediately became extremely ugly. He did not expect the other party to still chase after him. Moreover, he chose this moment to attack. Fortunately, he reacted quickly enough just now. Otherwise, he would have been severely injured by now. Even so, his expression was still very ugly. However, soon the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Originally, he was already having a headache because of the 6 zombies. Now that the other party was here, he could shift the trouble away. He would let the detestable thief in front of him fight with the 6 zombies. Meanwhile, they could calmly retreat. However, he soon realized that his idea would not work at all. That was because the other party's speed was too fast. It was so fast that it made his heart skip a beat. Therefore, not only did he not shift the blame, he even had to endure the combined attacks of the zombies and Lin Xian. For a moment, his situation became even more dangerous. Wang, a wisp of sword light like autumn water, incomparably sharp, directly slashed down from the sky. Seeing this, Li Wei quickly retreated, wanting to retreat. However, at the same time, 2 sword gods appeared behind him and quickly attacked. In addition, he was surrounded by zombies, so he couldn't escape at all. He could only take it head-on. Puff! However, he still underestimated these 2 sword god phantoms. At this moment, the 2 sword god phantoms were incomparably sharp. They were like 2 heavenly blades that directly injured Li Wei. Immediately blood spurted out. Li Wei roared madly as his entire body slowed down. However, at this moment, the 3 zombies in front of him smelled the fresh blood and rushed over in a frenzy. 6 terrifying palms ruthlessly slapped Li Wei's body. Pung pung pung. An earth-shattering collision sound rang out, and Li Wei's body was once again sent flying, smashing into the ground, creating an incomparably terrifying crater. Senior brother! Seeing this scene, the remaining 5 Elements sect disciples hurriedly ran over. On the other hand, Zhao Tianxi's face was gloomy. In the end, her eyes flickered as she gritted her teeth and snorted coldly. Her body turned into a silver light, and fled into the distance. She didn't care about the Five Elements sect anymore. Seeing this scene, Li Wei was so angry that he vomited blood. His already heavily injured body became even more serious. He didn't expect Zhao Tianxia to flee at the last minute. He couldn't believe it. Originally, he didn't have any enmity with Lin Xian. He only wanted to kill Lin Xian to win Zhao Tianxi's favor. However, he didn't expect Zhao Tianxia to flee. He couldn't believe it at all. Ignorant fellow. You don't even know that you've been used. Lin Xian snorted coldly. At the same time, he ordered the Dark Flood Dragon God to chase after Zhao Tianxia. As for himself, he was keeping an eye on the Five Elements sect disciples. On the other side, Li Wei's expression was very ugly. He swallowed a few pills and quickly healed his injuries. At the same time, with the help of a few people, he kept fighting. This was because the surrounding zombies were attacking again. As he dodged, Li Wei yelled crazily, "Stop fighting. I have no enmity with you. Previously I was possessed. I actually believed that bitch's words, and became your enemy. Now that I know what kind of person that *TCH is, I won't be your enemy anymore. Why don't we stop here and shake hands and make peace? I know you have a grudge with that *TCH. As long as you let us go, I promise that the Five Elements sect will definitely help you catch that *TCH and tear her into pieces." His words were very sincere, but Lin Xian could see the killing intent in his eyes. He immediately sneered. "You don't have to worry about who I have a grudge with. However, will the Five Elements sect really help me? Don't think that I don't know what you sect disciples are thinking. I'm afraid that if I let you go today, you'll lead a group of Five Elements sect experts to hunt me down tomorrow. I won't leave any trouble for myself. Damn it." Seeing that Lin Xian didn't believe him, Li Wei's face turned even uglier. He didn't expect that Lin Xian wouldn't let him go. He gritted his teeth and said, "Kid, you have to think carefully. I'm a genius disciple of the Five Elements sect. If anything happens to me, the Five Elements sect won't let you go." Lin Xian sneered. "Why? You want to use force when you can't persuade me? Do you think that this kind of threat will work on me? Since you dare to have ideas about me, you'll have to pay the price." After saying that, Lin Xian didn't say anything else. The sword qi on his body became even sharper. With a wave of his hand, the dragon sword realm flew out and completely enveloped the other party. He didn't attack directly. Instead, he coordinated with the attacks of the 6 zombies and continuously slashed out sword qi. The 6 zombies were extremely powerful and forced the Five Elements sect to retreat. In addition, Lin Xian's sword qi put them in danger. Not long after, those people were seriously injured. 2 of them were even directly pierced by the sword qi. "Damn kid, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost." At the last moment, Li Wei roared crazily. He burned his spiritual power, without caring about the consequences. Then 5 different elemental lights appeared around him, circling around him and enveloping him. It was obvious that he was going to risk his life. He was going to burn his spiritual power at all costs and escape from this place. However, how could Lin Xian let him go? In the next moment, Lin Xian's eyes lit up. Rays of golden light shot out from his eyes, accompanied by mysterious Dao patterns. Chapter 1739. These eyes, this is... When Li Wei saw Lin Xian's golden eyes, his scalp went numb. It was as if he had seen a ghost. He was a genius of the Five Elements sect, so he naturally knew about the heavenly secret divine eyes that had caused a huge uproar. Moreover, he had also heard of the legends of this divine eye. However, he had never imagined that he would discover such an eye technique in his opponent's eyes. This was simply too shocking. How could he have the heavenly secret divine eyes? Could he be someone from the heavenly secret race? He seemed to have discovered a shocking piece of news, but in the next moment, his body trembled as he fell into the illusion. With his current soul power, he was unable to resist the illusion of the heavenly secret divine eyes. Puff! On the other side, Li Wei had a sinister expression as he resisted with all his might. However, his body was still in place. In the next moment, Lin Xian used the 9-nether devil sword, and a black sword qi sliced the other party in half. Buzz! The golden light in Lin Xian's eyes disappeared. His figure flickered as he took the other party's storage ring. Then he pulled away from the 6 zombies and flew into the distance. The 6 zombies roared again and again, but in the end, they gave up on chasing after Lin Xian. They returned to the corpses of Li Wei and the others and quickly ate them. This scene was extremely terrifying. If someone were to see it, they would definitely scream. However, this was none of Lin Xian's business. He followed the traces of the dark red dragon and went to kill Zhao Tianxia. Compared to Li Wei, Zhao Tianxia was an even greater threat. This was because Zhao Tianxia knew that he had fought with the people of the 5 Elements sect and the All Beginnings Holy Land. If Zhao Tianxia spread this news, the All Beginnings Holy Land and the 5 Elements sect would definitely not let him off. Moreover, Zhao Tianxi's charming technique was extremely strange and could bewitch those genius cultivators. If this happened, he would have many more enemies. Therefore, he had to eliminate that witch. Not long after, Lin Xian met up with the dark red dragon. Unfortunately, he did not see Zhao Tianxi's figure. "What's going on?" Lin Xian asked. "That damned girl. She's too strange. I can't believe she got away." The dark red divine dragon was furious. "He ran away?" Lin Xian was shocked as well. He was well aware of the dark red divine dragon's methods. It was extremely terrifying. Even if it was tracking a powerful being, it would still be able to chase after it. But now he actually managed to escape. One had to admit that Zhao Tianxia was too strange and mysterious. That girl's bloodline is very special, and her regenerative ability is very strong. I'm afraid it won't be easy to catch her," the dark red divine dragon said in a deep voice. After that, the two of them searched the area again and found that the other party had completely disappeared. Therefore, the two of them could only retreat decisively. Since they couldn't find him, they didn't want to stay here any longer. That was because there were zombies and skeletons all around. If they weren't careful, a fight would break out. The two of them quickly left the area and found a safe place to hide. The next day, when the sun rose, Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon came out again. They realized that after walking around for a while, they had actually arrived near the Golden Beach. However, the beach here was not the same as the one he had stayed at before. Since they were here again, Lin Xian took out a demonic beast corpse from the black earth, and the two of them started to roast it. The sun gradually rose, and sunlight shone over the entire sea. The water rippled, and the sunlight was so bright that it was hard to open one's eyes. However, amidst the endless sunlight, a figure walked over. "Someone's here." Lin Xian and the Anhui divine dragon both had a serious expression. That was because the people who came last time were Guochuanfei and the others. After that, they had a huge battle with them. They didn't expect another person to come this time. However, they didn't know which sect this person belonged to. In front of the sea, a white figure walked on the waves. His speed was very fast. With a single step, he could cross 1,000 feet. It was as if he could shrink the ground into an inch. In a few steps, he arrived at the Golden Beach. It was a very handsome man. He was dressed in white, and his clothes were fluttering in the wind. He looked like an immortal that had descended to the mortal world. He wasn't old, only in his 20s. He looked about the same age as Lin Xian. His eyes were as bright as the stars, and the vitality in his body was even more vigorous. It was as if an ancient beast was hibernating in his body. Lin Xian was shocked. The man in white in front of him was definitely extremely powerful. Even he felt a sense of trepidation. When the man in white saw Lin Xian and the crimson divine dragon, he was also slightly surprised. However, his expression soon calmed down. "You two are?" the man in white asked in a deep voice. He didn't know Lin Xian at all, but he could feel how terrifying he was. That surprised him. One had to know that his background was extremely extraordinary, and his strength was extremely powerful. There were very few people who could match him in the same realm. However, he didn't expect to meet someone who was about the same age as him, and whose strength was unfathomable. Therefore, he was very curious. "I'm Long Xian. I'm a rogue cultivator," Lin Xian said. Now that he was wanted by the Wavering Light Sacred Land, he naturally wouldn't use his real name. "Long Xian." The man in white whispered as if he was trying to recall the name. However, he realized that he had never heard of him. However, that didn't mean that he would underestimate him. Yi Wudao, the man in white said in a deep voice. Yi Wudao, what a domineering name. Lin Xian was surprised. He realized that this man was indeed surprising. Compared to Guo Chuanfei and the others, he was much stronger. Although he hadn't seen his true strength, Lin Xian was certain. Beside him, the Crimson Divine Dragon was also shocked. He was shocked that this man's surname was Yi. The surname Yi wasn't an ordinary surname in the Eastern Wilderness. This was because there was a clan of the Ancients in the Eastern Wilderness. It was the clan of the Ancients. However, he didn't know if this Yi Wudao was a disciple of a clan of the Ancients. Brother Dragon, Leaf Daodinier said, is there anything strange about this continent? He had just arrived, so he naturally wanted to ask about it. Lin Xian saw that Yi Wudao didn't have any killing intent towards him, and he didn't put on airs either. Therefore, he roughly explained the situation here. He had too many enemies now, and he needed some companions. And this Yi Wudao in front of him seemed to be a good person. Therefore, Lin Xian wanted to get closer to him. As the two of them were talking, a few figures flew over from the sea in the distance. These figures had powerful auras, and they were very fast. It didn't take long for them to arrive on the beach. After they arrived on the beach, they began to look around. When they saw the man in white, their expressions changed. They didn't expect him to be here. Chapter 1740. However, what shocked them even more was that the white-clothed youth Yi Wudao was actually standing side by side with someone else. Who is that person? He's actually standing together with Yi Wudao? For a time, those people were shocked as they looked at Lin Xian. But then, they became even more confused. This was because they didn't recognize this person at all. Moreover, they had never heard of this person in the various peak powers. Perhaps he was a genius disciple that those peak powers had secretly raised. These people thought to themselves, because in their opinion, anyone who could stand together with Yi Wudao definitely wasn't a mortal. While these people were sizing up Lin Xian was also sizing them up, because he discovered that these people were indeed abnormally strong. Every one of them seemed stronger than people like Li Wei and Guo Chuanfei. Moreover, these people didn't seem very old. They were in their 20s, and the oldest was in their 30s. They were all from the younger generation. There was no need to think about it. These were all geniuses from peerless sects and peerless holy lands. This refreshed Lin Xian's opinion of these peak powers. He originally thought that people like Guo Chuanfei and Li Wei would be considered decent geniuses in these peak powers. But now it seemed that he was far from correct. Every single person here was stronger than Guo Chuanfu and Li Wei. Perhaps those two people from before were only ordinary disciples in their peerless holy lands. Thinking of this, Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. In the next moment, Lin Xian exclaimed in admiration, "What a beautiful woman!" That's right. There was a beautiful voice among the people who had arrived. Her beautiful face wasn't the least bit inferior to Morong Qingcheng's. She was definitely an unrivaled beauty. At this time, the people in front of him also quickly greeted him. "Brother Yi, I didn't expect to see you here." Yi Wudao nodded. Then he explained to Lin Xian, "Do you see that beautiful woman? She's a genius disciple of the All Beginnings Holy Land. Lu Mingyue. She has a very high chance of becoming the All Beginnings Holy Daughter. Lu Mingyue, Holy Daughter candidate." Hearing this, Lin Xian was also shocked. Firstly, he did not expect the woman in front of him to be so powerful that she was qualified to be the saintess. Furthermore, what shocked him even more was that the other party was actually someone from the All Beginnings Holy Land. One had to know that not long ago, he had killed Guo Chuanfei and several other martial artists of the All Beginnings Holy Land. He hadn't expected to run into people from the All Beginnings Holy Land. If news of him leaked out, there would be a battle between the two sides. Other than Lu Mingyue, the others were also very powerful. One of them was even more eye-catching, because he was too tall. It was a full 3 meters. The muscles on his body coiled like a dragon, emitting a terrifying aura. It was like a humanoid beast, terrifying to the extreme. According to Yi Wudao's introduction, Lin Xian knew that this powerful youth was a martial artist from the Four Symbols Holy Lands. His strength was boundless and incomparably terrifying. The other two were also disciples of great sections. Among them was a pale-faced youth. When he saw the vast primeval forest in front of him, his eyes lit up. What a beautiful forest! It seems that this place is indeed suitable for me. Lin Xian was stunned. He did not know why the other party said that. However, in the next instant he understood. That was because he saw the pale-faced youth walking forward. Soon after, the tall trees in front of him started to tremble. Many branches and vines came to life at this moment, and all of them quickly extended towards the pale-faced young man. In fact, wherever the youth walked, grass would grow on the ground. There were also unknown flowers. What kind of technique is this? Lin Xian was shocked and sucked in a breath of cold air. His name is Yin Qing. His domain is the thorn flower domain. It's very special. It belongs to the plant system and can get close to the natural forest. The white-clothed youth Yi Wudao explained in a deep voice. So that's how it is. Lin Xian nodded after hearing that. He had to admit that these people were too mystical. The pale-faced youth Yin Qing looked around and said with a smile, "It seems that we aren't too late. There aren't many people in the forest." Indeed. Yi Wudao nodded. However, it won't be long before more experts come here. On the other side, Lu Mingyue said in a sweet voice, "It's easy to come here, but it won't be so easy to leave. I didn't expect there to be indigenous people here. That's a big problem." Lu Mingyue was not only beautiful, but her voice was also very pleasant. Everyone frowned when they heard her words. Indeed, there were indigenous people here. They could be said to be a potential threat, because they did not know when they would make a move. Moreover, they still did not understand how to leave this special mystic world. Boom! However, at that moment, an earth-shattering sound came from the sea in the distance. Then, a wave of air exploded and boundless waves slapped in all directions. One of the waves was 1,000 feet tall. It rushed toward Lin Xian's side, as if it wanted to devour them. Humph! The 3-meter-tall youth Ouyang Feng snorted and waved his fist. The terrifying power directly shattered the horrifying waves. However, the others frowned because they did not understand what was going on. But soon their eyes widened. Even Yi Wudao, Lin Xian, and the others felt their scalps go numb, because they discovered that there was a battle in front of them. Above the sea in the distance, a fierce battle was going on at this moment. One side of the battle was a human powerhouse. They did not know which sect he was from, but the aura he emitted was abnormally terrifying. His opponent, on the other hand, was a terrifying black octopus. Its body was huge, like a small island, and it emitted an incomparably terrifying demonic aura. The battle between the two was abnormally fierce. Seeing this black octopus, Lin Xian's heart beat wildly, because he had encountered this opponent before. However, he had dodged it quickly, but he did not expect that there would be someone who dared to fight the black octopus. Because from the feeling he had at that time, this black octopus was very terrifying. It was probably at the level of an almighty human. Ordinary martial artists were not its opponent at all, but now it seemed that the human powerhouse could contend with it. Could it be that an almighty has made a move? The pale blue youth's eyes flickered. It was indeed an almighty. Lu Mingyu's expression was also solemn, but soon she frowned. But this power doesn't seem right. Something was wrong. Something was indeed wrong. Not only her, but everyone had noticed it. Chapter 1741. What's going on? Is he hiding his strength? That can't be. That black octopus is extremely terrifying. It's also at the level of an almighty. He wouldn't be so careless. Indeed, the black octopus was extremely terrifying. As it waved its 8 tentacles, they brought with them a terrifying light as they ruthlessly bombarded the human. As for the human almighty, he kept dodging. However, the power he released did not seem to be at the level of an almighty. In fact, he did not even use some of the almighty's techniques. What was going on? Everyone frowned. They did not understand what the other party was doing. Based on the current situation, the human almighty was extremely dangerous. Sure enough, after a few hundred moves, the human almighty was struck by a huge tentacle and his body was directly smashed into the sea. Not only that, but the black octopus also roared. A black ball of light formed above its head, and it ruthlessly blasted into the sea. Boom! The ball of light was too terrifying. It directly blasted the entire sea into overturning. The aftermath of the energy caused Lin Xian, Yi Wudao, and the others to hurriedly raise their energy defenses to resist it. After all, this was the energy of an almighty, and they were unable to resist it. However, the aftermath could still be blocked. After a long time, the entire sea returned to normal. In the distance, blood flowed along the sea, and soon, a corpse floated up. What? He was killed. How could this be? Everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. A dignified human mighty figure had actually been killed. This was too inconceivable. One had to know that that was a human almighty. It was extremely terrifying. Even if he could not defeat the black octopus, escaping would not be a problem. However, he had been killed by the black octopus. Moreover, what puzzled them was that the human almighty had not displayed any heaven-defying techniques from the beginning to the end. That was why he was killed. What's going on? Could it be that the almighty was seriously injured? Is that why he couldn't use his full strength? Lu Mingyue frowned. The group of people was very puzzled, but the dark red dragon's expression was extremely unsightly. What's wrong, ruffian dragon? Lin Xian asked. That almighty was not injured, the dark red dragon said in a deep voice. However, his strength has not reached the almighty realm. There might be a possibility. What possibility? Even Leaf Dao Denier and the others were curious. His cultivation has been suppressed, said the dark red dragon. The oblique moon profound world is a world of its own, and its laws are different from the outside world. Here we can't easily mobilize the surrounding spiritual energy. In other words, the rules here are very disadvantageous to outsiders like us. If that's the case, it wouldn't be difficult for the Almighty's cultivation to be suppressed. After all, it contained the power of the laws. Hearing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The fact that the cultivation level of an almighty being was being suppressed was simply too shocking. However, what the Crimson Divine Dragon said was reasonable. They were not ordinary warriors. They were all top geniuses of various major forces. They were experienced and knowledgeable. Thus, they believed those words in their hearts. If this was true, then it was definitely very bad news. Because in this way, their advantage would be gone. The clan of the remote antiquity, the peerless sacred grounds and other forces in the Eastern Barren territory had all sent grand overlords. But now, if their cultivation was suppressed, the situation would be very unfavorable for them if they encountered the natives. For example, the giant octopus from before was able to kill an almighty. Thinking of this, their faces turned gloomy. Lin Xian, on the other hand, was ecstatic. The cultivation level of an almighty being suppressed might not be good news for those major forces, but it was the best news for him, because he was alone, without any sect, and there was no almighty protecting him. Originally, he was worried that it would be difficult for him to escape if he was hunted down by the almighties of the wavering light sacred ground. But now, it seemed that these things were no longer a problem. The cultivation level of an almighty being was suppressed. No matter how powerful they were, Lin Xian could still escape if he could not defeat them. Moreover, there were many monsters in this primitive forest. As long as he made use of them, it would not be a problem for him to kill an almighty. Thinking of this, he felt a burst of excitement. Wavering light sacred ground, how dare you put me on the wanted list for so long? You'd better not let me meet you. Otherwise, I'll definitely give you a huge gift. Lin Xian snorted coldly in his heart. Since they were aware of this situation, they had to make preparations in advance and inform the other members of their sect as soon as possible. Therefore, Lu Mingyue and the other three said, "Brother Yi, we're leaving this place. Would you like to join us?" Hearing this, Yi Wudao shook his head and said, "No, I have other things to do." "All right then, we'll part ways here." Lu Mingyue smiled sweetly. Then, the four of them moved and left this place. During this process, they did not invite Lin Xian. In their opinion, although Lin Xian was mysterious, he was not qualified to be with them. Regarding this, Lin Xian remained calm. After all, Even if the other party invited him, he would still refuse. He could not walk together with the people of the All Beginnings Holy Land. Then Yi Wudao also left. For a time, only Lin Xian and the dark red dragon were left on the beach. However, the two of them moved quickly. Their goal was the dragon crystal in this primitive forest. After killing Li Wei, Guo Chuanfei, and the others, Lin Xian believed that apart from those powerful monstrous beasts, there was no one else in this forest that could be his match. But now, it seemed that things had changed. The cultivators that had rushed over were too powerful. For example, Yi Wudao, Lu Mingyue, and the others were all extremely terrifying. They far surpassed the cultivators that had come before. This posed an enormous threat to him. Therefore, he had to find the dragon crystal and increase his cultivation. Only then would he be able to survive in this forest. Therefore, they entered the forest again. However, after walking for a while, the little snow-white monkey suddenly jumped out. It grabbed Lin Xian's hair and started chirping nonstop. Its little paws kept gesturing, as if it wanted to bring him to a certain place. "Where are we going?" Lin Xian asked. Then, he followed the little monkey into the forest. But not long after, Lin Xian's face darkened. He discovered that the little monkey had brought him to the lair of a monstrous beast king. Moreover, it was not an ordinary monstrous beast king. It was the incomparably ferocious six-armed ape from before. The dark red dragon felt his scalp go numb. He said in a low voice, "Damned brat, are you trying to get us killed? Why did you lead us here?" His voice was so low that it was almost inaudible. Chapter 1742. If the six-armed beast woke up and discovered them, it would be difficult for them to escape. The little white monkey waved its paws, and its eyes seemed to say that it was very safe here. Lin Xian was very suspicious. He carefully probed with his soul power, and found that the six-armed abyss in front of them seemed to have fallen into a very strange state. It probably wouldn't wake up for a while. Should we go and take a look? Anyway, he had mastered the heavenly dragon's 8 steps, and his speed was terrifying. Even if there was danger, he should be able to escape. Therefore, Lin Xian decided to go and take a look. After all, if the little white monkey was so concerned about it, it was probably a rare treasure. Therefore, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon discussed for a while, and then carefully walked forward. In front of them, the six-armed divine ape was like a small golden mountain crawling there. Although it was in a strange state of sleep, the demonic aura emanating from its body was still terrifying. It made them all feel a sense of trepidation. Not only that, Lin Xian walked closer and found that there were a few terrifying cracks on the six-armed divine ape's back. It must have been injured by the 9th heaven divine thunder that day. It was probably sleeping now because of the injuries on its body. If that was the case, Lin Xian and the others would be much safer. In front of them, the little white monkey was jumping up and down on the six-armed divine ape. This scene almost made the dark red dragon's jaw drop. He quickly pulled the little white monkey over and scolded it. He was afraid that the six-armed divine ape would wake up. However, he was relieved that the other party was not awake yet. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The little white monkey stopped fooling around. It pointed forward and motioned for Lin Xian and the dark red dragon to go over. Then it took the lead and ran over. Could it be that there's really a treasure? Lin Xian and the dark red dragon quickly went over. Then they were stunned. This was because they found that there was a 5-colored stone in front of them. The 5-colored stone was the size of a palm, and it stood in front of them. It was surrounded by a 5-colored radiance, and it emitted waves of spirit qi. When Lin Xian saw it, he was also stunned. "Ruffian dragon, what's that?" he asked in bewilderment. "I don't know." The dark red dragon shook its head. He was experienced and knowledgeable, but he still didn't know what the 5-colored stone in front of him was, because that stone was simply too strange. Judging from the brilliance, it seemed to be a treasure. However, the faint aura it gave off seemed to be something that had existed for a very long time. It gave people a very contradictory feeling. In the next moment, the dark red divine dragon waved its claws, trying to grab the 5-colored stone. But soon he was stunned, because he realized that he couldn't pull it out at all. That 5-colored stone seemed to be connected to the earth. It was abnormally hard. Fuck, did I see a ghost? The dark red divine dragon refused to believe it. It circulated its strength again, and pulled up quickly. However, he couldn't shake it at all. Fuck, this is really weird. I can't pull it out. The dark red divine dragon frowned in anger. Seeing that the other party was about to attack again, Lin Xian stopped him. Ruffian Long, don't act recklessly. If this treasure is damaged by you, it would be terrible. Let me try. After saying that, he stretched out his palm and grabbed in front of him. A palm of light appeared and carefully enveloped the five-colored stone. Then he used his strength to pull it out. The result was the same. He still couldn't pull it out. This is really weird. Lin Xian was also surprised. He didn't dare to use his full strength for fear that he would alarm the six-armed divine ape next to him. However, judging from the strength he had exerted, even if it was a mountain, he would be able to pull it out. But now, he couldn't pull out a stone the size of a palm. It was really too weird. However, the little white monkey squinted its big eyes, which were like crescent moons. It quickly ran to the five-colored stone, stretched out its furry little paws, and hugged it in its arms. Plop! With a gentle hug, the little white monkey pulled out the five-colored stone. What? That works. The dark red divine dragon widened its eyes. It couldn't believe what it was seeing. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth twitched. He couldn't pull it out even after using so much strength. However, the little white monkey pulled it out with a gentle hug. This was too weird. Sigh. The dark red divine dragon held its chin and thought for a long time before speaking. This thing is definitely a treasure. Legend has it that the legendary item can choose its owner. It seems that the two of us are unlucky to not be chosen by the legendary item. Lin Xian was also confused. You're saying that the two of us can't pull out the five-colored stone because we're not fated with that treasure? And Little White was chosen. That should be the case. The dark red divine dragon sighed. Damn that little guy. His luck is too good to be able to obtain such a legendary item. Lin Xian also heaved a sigh of relief. Although he didn't obtain it, it wasn't bad to give it to the little white monkey. After all, Little White was his partner. Since they had obtained the five-colored stone, Lin Xian and the other two didn't dare to stay here any longer. They quickly moved and ran into the distance. This time, they climbed over more than 10 mountains in a row. After putting enough distance between them, they stopped. They had no choice. This item was beside the six-armed divine ape. Who knew if it belonged to the other party? If the other party woke up and realized that the legendary item was gone, it would definitely go berserk. They couldn't fight against that kind of monster king. Therefore, they could only run as far as they could. In a safe forest, Lin Xian and the other two stopped. Then, the little white monkey jumped on the ground, still hugging the five-colored stone in its arms. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon also observed carefully. They didn't take a closer look before. They only felt that the five-colored stone was extraordinary. Now that they took a closer look, it was indeed so. The five-colored stone was the size of a palm, almost as tall as the little white monkey. There were 5 different colors on it, emitting a bright light. It was like a divine light that contained a lot of power. Lin Xian even noticed that wherever the five-colored stone was, the surrounding spiritual qi would involuntarily gather towards it. Could it be that the five-colored stone can absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth? Lin Xian was shocked. The snow-white little monkey hugged the five-colored divine stone and was as happy as a child. It took a deep breath. A five-colored light appeared on the five-colored stone, then entered the little white fox's body. Soon Little White's body was suffused with a faint five-colored light. It was incomparably sacred. Damn! At the side, the dark red divine dragon was very envious. Its saliva was almost dripping onto the ground. In the next moment, it also took a deep breath. Suddenly, a five-colored light rushed out and entered the dark red divine dragon's body. Damn, no way! I can absorb it too. The dark red divine dragon was very excited. Lin Xian tried and found that he could absorb it too. This made him very happy. However, he found that after they absorbed it, the five-colored stone's light became much dimmer. Chapter 1743. Damn, are you kidding me? There's no more energy? The dark red divine dragon's eyelids twitched. After waiting for a while, he heaved a sigh of relief. That was because he realized that the five-colored sacred stone was gradually regaining its luster. The stone could automatically replenish its energy. The dark red divine dragon opened his mouth wide. It was indeed a heaven-defying treasure. Lin Xian was also shocked. Judging from the energy absorbed just now, it was no less than the energy of the dragon crystal. More importantly, the five-colored sacred stone could replenish its own energy. It was equivalent to an unlimited dragon crystal. However, the only drawback was that the five-colored sacred stone did not contain much energy at the moment. It would take some time to absorb it. Oh no! The little white monkey was also playing with the five-colored sacred stone in his hand. However, from the looks of it, he seemed to think that the stone was too big for him to carry. However, the stone seemed to be very intelligent. It could understand Little White's meaning. Hence, under the shocked gazes of Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon, the five-colored sacred stone gradually became smaller. However, the light on it became even more dazzling. In the end, it became like a jelly bean and was swallowed by the little white monkey. Damn, no way. Damn monkey, you ate it? That's a treasure. The little white monkey looked at him in disdain. Then, it opened its mouth and spat out the five-colored sacred stone again. Not only that, but the five-colored sacred stone was even more intelligent this time. Under Little White's furry claws, it kept changing into various forms. Swords, spears, staffs, capes, cloaks, clothes, helmets. In short, it could change into various forms. This change made the little white monkey very excited. The dark red divine dragon was also curious. He took it and tried it. In the end, he realized that he could not make the five-colored sacred stone do that. Lin Xian, on the other hand, was extremely shocked. It seemed that the five-colored stone was indeed born to belong to the little white monkey. Just as the few of them were studying the five-colored sacred stone, an angry roar came from afar. That voice was too terrifying. It contained infinite anger. In an instant, the clouds in the sky were shattered. On top of that, the ground began to tremble violently. In fact, a few of the mountain peaks even exploded. Upon hearing this sound, Lin Xian and the crimson mystical dragon felt their scalps tingle. They knew that the six-armed mystical ape had awakened. The six-armed divine ape had indeed woken up. However, the moment it woke up, it was incomparably furious. This was because he realized that the five-colored divine stone beside him had disappeared without a trace. This made him extremely furious. So in the next moment, he immediately went berserk. The six-armed godly ape was an extremely terrifying demon king with heaven-defying strength. Its rampage caused the entire primeval forest to fall into chaos. That terrifying body swept in all directions. The demonic aura on his body soared into the sky, forming a golden demonic cloud that bared its fangs and brandished its claws. The nearby demonic beasts were all affected and fled madly. Even a few human ancient martial art practitioners were affected by it. The six arms waved and grabbed the nearby mountain peaks, uprooting them. Not only that, the six-armed divine ape did not find the whereabouts of the five-colored divine stone after searching the surroundings. Thus, he began to run towards the distance. The earth trembled as if there was an earthquake. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon felt their scalps go numb. They hurriedly brought the little white monkey away. However, the little white monkey was not afraid. It shrank the five-colored divine stone again and swallowed it directly into its mouth, cutting off the connection between the five-colored divine stone and the outside world. As expected, the six-armed divine ape could no longer find the right direction. It could only destroy everything in its surroundings. Only when the six-armed divine ape left and Lin Xian and the rest were safe did the three of them heave a sigh of relief. Then the dark red divine dragon set up a spirit gathering array. The little white monkey stood in the spirit gathering array with the five-colored divine stone in its arms. In the next moment, the five-colored divine stone shone brightly. Lin Xian and the rest absorbed the five-colored energy together. Whoosh! Whoosh! The energy was too pure and rich. Lin Xian's longevity incantation was circulating crazily in his body, absorbing the energy of the lotus with all his might. 5 days later, a low vibration suddenly came from Lin Xian's body. It was as if a muffled thunder had exploded. Then a terrifying energy surged from his body. Boom! Sword Qi soared into the sky. It was incomparably sharp. It slashed through the void and disappeared into the clouds above. In the next moment, Lin Xian opened his eyes. Golden light flickered in his eyes. There were even mysterious runes appearing. The aura on his body was as deep as the sea. It was extremely terrifying. I broke through. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. The corner of his mouth curled up into a smile. Finally, he had successfully broken through to the 4-star king realm. Compared to before, his cultivation and strength had increased tremendously once again. Feeling the powerful great dragon sword soul, Lin Xian revealed a satisfied smile. Now even if he encountered Lu Mingyue or other genius martial artists, he would not be afraid. Moreover, with the 5-colored divine stone in his hand, his strength would continue to increase. Then Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon continued on their journey. Half a day later, a valley appeared in front of them. The surrounding vegetation was lush, and the spirit qi was very dense. The valley was filled with fresh flowers, birds, and beasts. It was like a paradise on earth. Not only that, Lin Xian saw 2 familiar faces in the valley. Lu Mingyue and the pale-faced young man Yin Qing. Lu Mingyue was in a blue dress. Her slender figure was very agile and elegant. Her peerless face was like a dream. Beside her, Yin Qing's face was pale. There was a strange glow on his body. It was as if he could dominate the entire forest. In the next moment, the 2 of them turned around and stared at Lin Xian. Then they frowned. "Why did you come here?" Lu Mingyue asked, her voice carrying a trace of coldness. "I passed by on the way. I didn't expect you to be here too." Lin Xian replied in a deep voice. He saw the other party's expression and became vigilant. He thought that the other party knew that Guo Chuanfei and the others had been killed. In front of him, Lu Mingyu's clothes fluttered like a fairy. Her eyes were filled with arrogance. She looked down at Lin Xian and said coldly, "Leave. This is not a place where you can come. There are some things that you can't touch." Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. The other party's attitude made him very unhappy. However, at the same time he also relaxed. Because he realized that it wasn't about Guo Chuanfei. Instead, the other party seemed to have discovered something and didn't want others to enter the valley. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. He didn't want to be entangled with the other party. So his figure flashed, and he left the area, flying into the distance. Yin Qing's eyes were cold as he watched Lin Xian and the dark red dragon leave. He's lucky that he ran fast enough. Otherwise, I would definitely bury him under my thorn flower. Lu Mingyue frowned slightly and said softly, "His background is a little mysterious. He actually knows Yi Wudao." But fortunately, he was tactful and didn't force his way into the valley. Otherwise, we would have to attack him. In the next moment, the 2 of them retracted their gazes and ignored Lin Xian. Instead, they looked at the valley. Chapter 1744. Soon, the 2 unleashed their powerful soul powers and began searching the valley. On the other side, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon left the valley. "Brat, those 2 were too arrogant. Why didn't you attack them?" The dark red dragon snorted angrily. The other party's arrogant attitude made it very unhappy. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. "No hurry. There's no need to fight them now. At least we need to figure out what they're looking for." This primeval forest was too mysterious. He had once found a dragon crystal and a 5-colored divine stone here. Presumably, other cultivators would also have made great discoveries and found heaven-defying treasures. This wasn't strange at all. Sure enough, not long after, Lin Xian found traces of other cultivators. He even found many scenes of battle along the way. Obviously, someone had attacked. Ahead, blood and several corpses were scattered. It seemed that the battle was very fierce. But those people had already left and seemed to be rushing forward. What were they looking for? Even the dark red dragon was very curious. Suddenly, Lin Xian frowned and looked to the left. He realized that there was a strange energy fluctuation there. Someone was rushing over at a fast speed. In the next moment he was surprised, because there was someone rushing over. And not only that, He was very familiar with that person. It was Yi Wudao, whom he had seen before. Yi Wudao was still dressed in white, spotless clothes. His face was handsome, like a god of war. His whole person exuded a majestic vitality. "Brother Long, I didn't expect to see you again so soon." Yi Wudao smiled when he saw Lin Xian. "That's right, Brother Yi. I wonder what these people are looking for." Lin Xian voiced his doubts. "Not long ago, someone found a spiritual old medicine. These people are desperately trying to find traces of the spiritual old medicine." Spiritual old medicine? Hearing this, Lin Xian was shocked. As an alchemist, he knew about this spiritual old medicine. It was a very precious spirit medicine. Not only was it very old, but it also had spirituality. It could fly and escape from cultivators. It could be said that it was full of spirituality. Its effects were even more terrifying. It could increase a martial artist's power, extend their lifespan, and even bring the dead back to life. It could be said that its effects were extremely miraculous. This was definitely a rare treasure. This kind of psychic old medicine was very rare in the outside world. To think that it actually appeared in this primeval forest. That's right. Unfortunately, the appearance of this psychic medicine is going to cause a rain of blood and a foul wind. If you don't have a special need for the psychic old herb, Brother Long shouldn't get involved in this mess. Leaf Daudinier said slowly. This was because he knew that Lin Xian was just a rogue cultivator without a sect behind him. It would be very dangerous for him to participate in such a competition. Indeed, many experts had landed in this primeval forest, causing the situation here to become very complicated. Those top sects could be said to be extremely terrifying. Under their combined strength, even a genius martial artist would be defeated. After that, Leaf Daudinier left. But Lin Xian's eyes flickered. He did not expect that what these people were fighting over was actually the psychic old medicine. This was a rare divine medicine, and it was very useful to him. How could he not fight for it? Moreover, the cultivation of the almighties of the various major factions that were the greatest threat to him had already been suppressed by the rules here. With his heavenly dragon's 8 steps, that extreme speed allowed him to fight against the various major factions. At least his safety was guaranteed. Then, he and the dark red divine dragon set off. The two of them quickly set off, preparing to search for the psychic old medicine. Not long after, they heard the sound of fighting in front of them. The two of them were delighted, thinking that it must be related to the psychic old medicine. Therefore they increased their speed. Whoosh, whoosh. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon landed, and discovered a few corpses in front of them. Moreover, there was an intense battle in front of them. It was a very tall figure, like a demonic beast, emitting an incomparably terrifying aura. With a wave of his arm, countless gusts of wind were brought up. A terrifying aura filled the entire space. In the distance, Lin Xian's pupils constricted when he saw that figure. He was no stranger to this figure. It was the tall youth he met on the beach, Ouyang Feng. Ouyang Feng was a martial artist from the Four Symbols Sacred Grounds, and his strength was incomparably terrifying. Ouyang Feng's opponent was not weak either. It was a man in a black robe, with a sinister aura around him. With a wave of his hand, a terrifying cold wind blew. Blue ice pierced the bones and blasted forward rapidly. In an instant, the entire forest was frozen. Ouyang Feng's opponent was an ice-based martial artist, and the power of his ice was extremely terrifying. It was as if it could freeze everything in the world. However, the tall demonic beast youth, Ouyang Feng, laughed maniacally. He waved his fist, and a terrifying force blasted the ice in the sky. Crack, crack, crack. A terrifying sound rang out, and the ice in the sky instantly cracked and fell to the ground. Not only that, the body of the black-robed youth was torn apart by a single punch. Blood gushed out, and the scene was terrifying. Seeing this scene, even Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon's hearts beat wildly. One had to admit that Ouyang Feng's strength was too violent. It was as if he was a human-shaped dragon. The demonic beast youth, Ouyang Feng, sneered disdainfully after defeating his opponent. However, in the next moment he suddenly turned around. His gaze was like a cold blade as he stared at Lin Xian. "Who is it? Get out here!" he shouted coldly, and his voice turned into a powerful force that blasted toward Ouyang Feng. Boom! Suddenly, the mountain peak in the distance exploded, and Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon appeared in another place in a flash. What? It's you! The demonic beast youth Ouyang Feng was stunned when he saw Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon, but his expression soon turned cold. Kid, what are you doing here? This is not a place where you can come. Get out of here if you know what's good for you. Ouyang Feng's nerves were cold as he looked down at Lin Xian. On the other side, a figure also walked out from the forest. It was another youth, and he was also the one who appeared on the beach. He looked at Lin Xian with disdain. Kid, you have to know your place. You're just a wandering cultivator. You don't have the qualifications to fight for the treasure. If you didn't know Yi Wudao, you would be a dead man by now. The two of them had arrogant looks on their faces, and they didn't put Lin Xian in their eyes at all. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes, and his lips curled into a cold smile. When he met Lu Mingyue and the others in the valley, he didn't attack because he didn't know what they were fighting for. Chapter 1745. Treasures are ownerless. Anyone can look for them. If you can look for them, why can't I? Lin Xian sneered. Do you really think you're superior? You want to look for treasures too? You're overestimating yourself. You're just a rogue cultivator. How dare you compete with us? Looks like you don't know what's good for you. I'll give you one last chance. Get lost. Otherwise you'll be in big trouble. Ouyang Feng snorted with a murderous look in his eyes. Lin Xian's face darkened. Ouyang Feng's attitude annoyed him, so he didn't answer. Instead, he raised his fist and punched at Ouyang Feng. You're courting death. Ouyang Feng was furious. How dare Ouyang Feng attack him? In the next moment, he also punched out quickly. At the same time, a terrifying aura surged from his body and instantly filled the entire space. Boom! Boom! In the next moment, everything around him was smashed apart. It couldn't withstand the aura at all. The surrounding forest was instantly blasted into powder. The mountain peak in the distance also exploded. It turned into countless boulders and rolled to the ground. That terrifying aura made one's scalp tingle. It was a shocking scene. Everything was smashed into pieces. It couldn't withstand the aura at all. Bang! A terrifying fist broke through the air with endless energy. It condensed the power of a savage beast and blasted toward Lin Xian. In the next moment, the terrifying fist shadows collided in the air with a deafening sound. A terrifying storm tore through the void. Kill! Lin Xian shouted coldly. Sword chi surged from his body, and a huge sword ray shot into the sky. What? He's a swordsman! The surrounding warriors exclaimed. Ouyang Feng was also surprised. He didn't expect Lin Xian to be able to block his punch. It was too surprising. There were also warriors watching the battle. When they saw Lin Xian block Ouyang Feng's punch, they gasped. They knew how powerful Ouyang Feng was. In this forest, he had killed many experts with one punch. It could be said that he was an extremely fearful demon king. But now, there was actually someone who could block his attack. It was simply too shocking. Dazzling sword chi swept out in all directions. At this moment, the entire space was filled with violent sword chi, quickly enveloping Ouyang Feng. It's useless. Ouyang Feng sneered. Fighting with me is the biggest mistake of your life. He roared and threw out a punch. The terrifying fist collided with the sword chi that filled the sky, creating an earth-shattering sound. Clang! Clang! The void trembled and the earth cracked. However, to Ouyang Feng's surprise, the sword chi that filled the sky did not crack. This was something that surprised him greatly. One had to know that his fist was extremely powerful, and it could even blast open the body of a 6-star king. But now, he was actually unable to break through his opponent's sword chi. It had to be said that it was really too shocking. Even Sun Yang, who was watching from the side, was frowning. To be honest, he didn't care about Lin Xian at all before. But he didn't expect that the other party's strength would exceed their expectations. So powerful. For Symbol's sacred grounds? You're just Sozo. Is this what gives you the right to be arrogant? What a joke. Lin Xian held the 9 darkness demonic sword in his hand, and walked forward step by step like a god of death. With every step he took, the aura on his body became more tyrannical. In the end, a sword chi pierced through heaven and earth. It was incomparably sharp, as if it was a heavenly sword. It was terrifying to the extreme. "You're courting death. Kid, I'll let you know my true power today." On the other side, Ouyang Feng was furious. As a genius, he had never been looked down upon like this. Therefore, in the next moment, he roared angrily, and the aura on his body suddenly erupted. He waved his fists and light shone. An immemorial mammoth appeared, letting out a dull roar. That scene was too terrifying. The immemorial mammoth was like a demonic mountain. It was incomparably heavy, and its terrifying roar caused the entire forest to tremble. Then, the immemorial mammoth rushed toward Lin Xian with its fists. Bang! Bang! The void could not withstand this force at all, and directly cracked. Lin Xian's expression was extremely solemn. He had to admit that the other party's strength was too terrifying. However, it was impossible for them to defeat him with this amount of power. In the next moment he snorted coldly, raised his arm, and brandished the Nine Darkness demonic sword. The great dragon sword soul in his body circulated. Terrifying sword chi turned into a boundless galaxy, slashing forward. In an instant, black sword chi that filled the sky enveloped that immemorial mammoth. In the void, a terrifying sound was emitted. The two people's attacks exploded in the air, covering the entire space. Even those martial artists watching the battle in the surroundings had a change in expression, running toward the back like crazy. Because this explosion was seriously too terrifying. If they were swept into it, they would not be able to resist at all. Who is this person? So powerful. He could actually contend with Ouyang Feng. Everyone looked at Lin Xian, extremely shocked. On the other side, Ouyang Feng was shocked again. The fist art that he displayed just now was an ultimate skill of the four symbols holy lands. The immemorial mammoth fist could summon the phantom of an immemorial mammoth and use it to fight. One could say that the power was terrifying to the extreme. Even a 6-star sovereign could not trap it. And the other party's sword chi was actually blocked. This surprised him. Not only that, the swift and fierce aura that the other party's sword chi carried made him have a feeling of fear and trepidation. Who is this kid? How can he possibly possess such a sharp sword Dao aura? He seriously could not figure out how an itinerant cultivator could possibly possess such formidable power. The next moment, Ouyang Feng roared angrily and attacked again. Immemorial mammoth fist. In the void, the silhouettes of immemorial mammoths appeared once more. But this time there were two. The two immemorial mammoths stood indomitable, emitting terrifying power from all over their bodies. Countless light rays revolved around them, as if these two immemorial mammoths could suppress everything in the world. Two immemorial mammoths? How terrifying! In the distance, the martial artists watching the battle felt their hearts beat wildly. Because just this aura alone made them tremble uncontrollably. If facing it head-on, they probably could not block a blow at all. This Ouyang Feng is too powerful to actually be able to condense two immemorial mammoths. As far as I know, each additional immemorial mammoth, the power will double. What? Double? You're saying that the power of this punch is double of the previous punch? Heavens, just what kind of fist art is this? Is he still human? After everyone heard this news, their scalps tingled. That punch from before was already extremely terrifying. Now it even doubled. Just how terrifying would it be? They did not dare to imagine. Most likely, it was very difficult for anyone to block in the same rank. Opposite, Lin Xian's expression was also solemn. He felt a terrifying aura from the two immemorial mammoth phantoms. Chapter 1746. He didn't dare to be careless. With a wave of his hand, the dragon sword domain appeared and floated around him. As soon as the dragon sword domain appeared, a terrifying sword aura shot into the sky. The sharp aura made the entire space unable to withstand it. The surrounding cultivators were even trembling, a hint of fear appearing in their eyes. Heavens, what a terrifying sword Dao domain! Why do I feel that young man is not weaker than Ouyang Feng at all? Yeah, this sword aura is too sharp. I've never seen it before. Who is he? On the opposite side, Ouyang Feng's pupils shrank when he saw Lin Xian's dragon sword domain. Needless to say, the other party's sharp aura made him feel threatened. Therefore, he didn't hesitate and quickly moved. With a punch, two immemorial demonic elephants roared and rushed toward Lin Xian. Terrifying power surged, and the earth shook as if there was a huge earthquake. The two immemorial demonic elephants each had destructive power, enough to kill a 6-star king. Now that two of them appeared together, the scene was extremely terrifying. On the opposite side, Lin Xian didn't hesitate. He waved the 9 Serenities demonic sword, and the dragon sword domain around him trembled quickly. Rays of dazzling sword aura swept out, protecting him. At the same time, more sword aura slashed forward. Boom! Boom! Lin Xian attacked aggressively. Every ray of sword aura was extremely sharp, as if it could destroy everything. In the end, the sword aura that filled the sky intertwined and formed an azure dragon. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it pounced on the two immemorial demonic elephants. Boom! Boom! The sky collapsed, and a terrifying aura swept out in all directions. Humph! At this moment, Ouyang Feng snorted and waved his fist quickly. Demonic elephant sky suppression! He roared, and the two immemorial demonic elephant phantoms roared into the sky. The light on their bodies soared into the sky, and the two immemorial demonic elephants' bodies continued to grow. They were like two immemorial stone tablets, trying to suppress the azure dragon. The immemorial demonic elephant was a very powerful demonic beast in ancient times. It was rumored to be a demonic beast that suppressed hell. At this moment, when Ouyang Feng used it, it was extremely terrifying. The two immemorial demonic elephants gradually grew bigger and covered the sky, trying to suppress the azure dragon sword aura. Suppress! Ouyang Feng roared, and the azure dragon sword aura was directly suppressed. What? He actually suppressed it. This immemorial demonic elephant is too terrifying. It can even suppress such a sharp sword energy. I'm afraid nothing in this world can stop it. When the surrounding martial artists saw this scene, their scalps went numb. Ouyang Feng sneered. Kid, you're going to lose. You want to fight me with this little bit of strength? The difference is too great. Lin Xian's face darkened as he coldly snorted. In the next moment, the great dragon sword soul within his body began to revolve wildly, causing the void in front of him to tremble violently. Pung! An earth-shattering sound rang out, as the two immemorial demonic mammoths in front of him collapsed. Boundless sword chi gushed out from below and shot up into the sky. Then, it transformed into an azure dragon that roared at the sky. A terrifying aura swept out in all directions. What? He's out. When everyone saw this scene, their scalps went numb. Originally, they thought that Lin Xian was bound to lose, but they did not expect that in the blink of an eye, the sword chi azure dragon would rush out. It had to be said that it was really too surprising. Even Ouyang Feng's pupils constricted, and his face was full of shock. He did not expect that his two immemorial demonic mammoths would be shattered. What kind of sword chi was that? How could it be so powerful? You finished your attack. Next it's my turn, Lin Xian said coldly. He held the 9 darkness demonic sword in his hand, and in a flash, he arrived on top of the sword chi azure dragon. Then one man and one dragon quickly charged forward. Roar! Boom! The terrifying sword chi tore through heaven and earth, and slashed toward Ouyang Feng. Humph! Seeing the shocking sword chi, Ouyang Feng moved his body and quickly dodged. However, he still underestimated the sword chi because he could not dodge it at all. Ouyang Feng's face was gloomy as he quickly waved his palm. The light on his body bloomed and instantly formed a huge demonic mammoth's head. It was as if a gate of hell was placed in front of him. Pung! In the next moment, the shocking sword chi slashed on the black gate, formed by the immemorial demonic mammoth, making a loud noise. However, the black gate of hell was too terrifying. It was incomparably hard and was not damaged. There was not even a crack on it. For a moment, everyone was shocked. Even Lin Xian frowned slightly. He did not expect Ouyang Feng's defense to be so strong. White Tiger Aura. After blocking Lin Xian's shocking sword chi, Ouyang Feng roared again. In the next moment, his fist technique changed rapidly, and a terrifying murderous aura gushed out from his body. At this moment, Ouyang Feng was tall and his black hair fluttered in the wind. He really looked like a demonic beast, and was extremely terrifying. As his fists moved, a loud and clear whistling sound could be heard. The sound shook the forest and made people's blood boil. A huge white tiger appeared in his palm, roaring and rushing toward Lin Xian. The azure dragon on the left, and the white tiger on the right. The white tiger was in charge of attacking, and its murderous aura was extremely terrifying. As soon as it appeared, it rushed toward Lin Xian in an overwhelming manner, as if it was going to tear him apart. Lin Xian's expression was grave as well. He did not expect Ouyang Feng's random fist technique to be so terrifying. This white tiger phantom before his eyes made all the hairs on his body stand on end. In the next moment he roared and waved his fist. The apocalyptic black dragon fist surged out violently. The black fist surged and formed a huge black dragon, covering the sky and emitting a terrifying aura. In the surroundings, black lightning fell and pierced through the void. Boom! In the fierce battle, powerful energy swept in all directions, drowning the entire sky and turning it into chaos. After blocking Ouyang Feng's white tiger aura, Lin Xian attacked again. With a wave of his hand, a black dragon claw quickly grabbed at Ouyang Feng, as if it was going to tear him in half. Crack, crack, crack. The void split open in an instant. A terrifying crack appeared and spread towards Ouyang Feng at a high speed. Roar! Ouyang Feng roared and his eyes were bloodshot. He waved his fists, and a terrifying energy surged forward. Get lost! White tiger demonic tattoos appeared on his body, and it was extremely terrifying. Clang! In a shocking collision, Ouyang Feng dodged Lin Xian's attack. However, he was incomparably shocked. Ouyang Feng was too powerful, so powerful that he could not believe it. On the other side, Lin Xian was also shocked, but in the next moment he snorted coldly. He put away the 9 underworld demonic sword. Ouyang Feng, martial artist of the 4 symbols sacred grounds, aren't you proud of your fist techniques? Today, I will defeat you with my fist techniques. What? Hearing this, the crowd was in an uproar, and they could not believe it. They already knew that Lin Xian was a swordsman. His sword chi was sharp, and with his terrifying sword techniques he could contend with Ouyang Feng. But now, Ouyang Feng wanted to give up his advantage, and use his fist techniques to contend with Ouyang Feng. Chapter 1747. Lin Xian wanted to give up his advantage and fight Ouyang Feng with his fists. Wasn't this courting death? One had to know that Ouyang Feng was most proficient in terrifying fist techniques. Ouyang Feng sneered when he heard Lin Xian's words. Stupid boy, since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. To be honest, he was about to go crazy. Lin Xian dared to look down on him. He had to kill Lin Xian. On the other side, Ouyang Feng's companion Sun Yang sneered. What an idiot. He didn't use his sword and dared to fight Ouyang Feng with his fists? Looks like this boy is really dead. Ouyang Feng laughed wildly when he saw Lin Xian giving up his sword and competing with his fists. Then, he waved his fists and used the white tiger divine fist. A terrifying white tiger shadow rushed forward. Lin Xian also quickly brandished his fist technique. He did not use the apocalyptic black dragon fist, but another fist technique. The 5 Elements Fist. This fist was a unique skill of the 5 Elements sect. Lin Xian naturally didn't know it, but he had the Great Dragon Sword Soul. The Great Dragon Sword Soul was an offensive saint technique that could simulate everything. Lin Xian had seen the 5 Elements Fist before, and could simulate it with the Great Dragon Sword. For a moment, he used the Metal Element Fist of the 5 Elements Fists. The sky was filled with golden light. It was terrifying. The Metal Element Fist of the 5 Elements Fist was similar to the White Tiger Divine Fist. It focused on killing and was extremely fierce. Moreover, the fist contained the Great Dragon Sword Soul. When it was used, it was even more terrifying. In the next moment, the terrifying Golden Fist collided with the White Tiger Divine Fist. There were countless collisions in the air. Lin Xian's fist was too violent. The golden light was like a wave, violently slapping in all directions. However, Ouyang Feng was no weakling. The White Tiger Divine Fist was terrifying. The huge White Tiger shadow, carrying terrifying energy, collided with the golden light in the sky and tore it apart. For a moment, both of them disappeared in the sky. What? What a fierce fist! When the surrounding martial artists saw this scene, they immediately exclaimed in surprise. They thought that since Lin Xian had abandoned his sword, he would definitely be at a disadvantage, and might even be defeated in one move. However, he didn't expect his opponent's fist technique to be so powerful. That golden light was in no way inferior to sword chi. No wonder he dared to compete with Ouyang Feng in fist techniques. Damn it! How can this kid's fist technique be so powerful? Ouyang Feng's face was also ugly. He did not expect his opponent's fist technique to be so terrifying. It was not any weaker than his white tiger divine fist. It even made his hair stand on end. Damn brat, I don't believe you. Die! Ouyang Feng roared and performed another fist technique. Above his fist, a terrifying light flashed, falling from the sky like a Milky Way. This scene was simply too astonishing. It was as if a true divine river from the 9 heavens was descending from the immortal palace. Lin Xian also snorted coldly and changed his fist technique again. The fist of metal became the fist of water. The boundless sea. The seawater in the sky surged, and the entire space seemed to have turned into an ocean. It was densely packed, and every inch of space was filled with the power of the seawater. It was hard to defend against it. Boom! 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 The 7 Milky Ways that Ouyang Feng shot out were instantly drowned. Not only that, but his body also kept retreating. What? When the surrounding people saw this scene, their eyes widened. They couldn't believe that Ouyang Feng was forced to retreat. Moreover, he was forced to retreat in fist techniques. This was simply too unbelievable. Ouyang Feng's face was also ugly. He couldn't believe that his opponent had defeated him in fist techniques. One had to know that he was a genius martial artist from the 4 symbols sacred ground. His strength was terrifying, and it was difficult for him to find a match among those of the same level. Even the older generation figures were no match for him. However, now someone who was obviously younger than him, and was a lone cultivator, had forced him to retreat. He couldn't accept this. Therefore, in the next moment, he roared and performed his king's domain. This time, he was going to go all out. Otherwise, he would be too ashamed to continue living after being defeated by his opponent today. Ouyang Feng's king's domain was extremely terrifying. It was formed by the immemorial demonic elephants. It was extremely thick and heavy, as if it could crush the void. In an instant, the immemorial demonic elephant domain enveloped Lin Xian. Suddenly, Lin Xian felt the pressure. It was as if 100,000 mountains were mercilessly pressing down on his head, crushing his body. Lin Xian's eyes burst out with a bright light. He quickly waved his fists. Terrifying power surged out, and the golden light shone even brighter. It covered the sky and covered the earth, rushing towards his opponent's entire domain. At that moment, the golden light on Lin Xian's fists turned into golden swords, and were extremely sharp. Boom! Boom! There was an intense collision. The golden light violently blasted on the immemorial demonic elephant domain, and the void shook violently. The surrounding martial artists quickly retreated. The ground cracked, and huge cracks appeared and spread into the distance. In the sky, a golden storm had formed. It was like a golden sun. Boom! In the end, the golden storm exploded and swept out in all directions. Ouyang Feng's face was pale, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Then his body was on the verge of collapse. Because in the explosion, his king's domain also exploded, causing him to be seriously injured. Ouyang Feng was injured. Seeing this scene, the surrounding martial artists felt their scalps go numb. Sun Yang, who was standing aside, was even more shocked. To be honest, he really did not expect things to turn out this way. Previously, he did not expect this scene at all. Damn it, impossible. I don't believe it. Ouyang Feng's hair was disheveled, and his face was crazed. He really could not believe that his opponent had defeated him in fist techniques. Damn it, this is the 5 Elements fist. Are you from the 5 Elements sect? Ouyang Feng gritted his teeth and asked. What? The 5 Elements sect? Everyone was shocked. Yes, he is indeed using the 5 Elements fist, someone exclaimed. Is he really a martial artist from the 5 Elements sect? However, on the other side, Sun Yang frowned. Impossible, the 5 elements sex people have such power. We all know them. But this kid, we have never heard of him. They were too confused. It doesn't matter which sect I am from. What's important is that everything is over, Lin Xian said coldly, and then waved the earth element fist. Suddenly the earth surged and 2 large yellow hands appeared, grabbing at Ouyang Feng. At the same time, a huge mountain fell from the sky. Boom! In an instant the sky was crushed. Ouyang Feng used his movement technique and disappeared from the spot. With a boom, the void cracked and turned into a large black rift valley, pierced by the huge mountain. At the same time, a wave fell from the sky. A terrifying force rushed out, affecting the entire space, and causing a tsunami to occur in the entire forest. The surrounding area collapsed. Chapter 1748. At the same time, there was a wave that fell from the sky. A terrifying force rushed out and affected the entire space, causing a tsunami to occur in the entire forest. Everything around them collapsed. It was the water element fist. It was extremely terrifying. On the side, Sun Yang pulled Ouyang Feng, and the 2 of them quickly retreated. That was because the current Lin Xian was simply too powerful. They simply couldn't withstand him. Ouyang Feng's face was gloomy, but he also retreated with them, because he couldn't figure out Lin Xian's true identity at all. Why did he use the 5 element fist? And the power was terrifying. You want to leave? Lin Xian snorted and waved his fist again. Suddenly, boundless waves swept out and surrounded the surroundings. You're courting death. Get lost. Ouyang Feng was furious. He did not expect that Lin Xian would not let them leave. He was too much. In the next moment, he summoned 2 immemorial demonic elephants again and rushed out. The terrifying demonic elephant shadows roared in the void palace and crushed the surroundings. On the other side, Sun Yang pulled out a large black flag from the void and kept spinning it. Suddenly, boundless black light surged like a black ocean, pressing down from the sky. In the next moment, it collided with Lin Xian's water element fist, causing a huge explosion. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the 2 of them quickly retreated like lightning. Kid, I'll remember what happened today. The next time we meet, I'll wash away today's humiliation. Ouyang Feng's voice came from afar. Lin Xian's eyes were like lightning, and his expression was cold, but he did not pursue. He knew that it was easy to defeat Ouyang Feng, but it would be difficult to kill him now. However, from now on, Ouyang Feng would not dare to be presumptuous in front of him. The people around them felt their scalps go numb. They looked at Lin Xian with fear. They did not expect the nameless young man in front of them to be so terrifying. Even Ouyang Feng was no match for him. Soon, everyone retreated and did not dare to stay there. They were afraid of being targeted by Lin Xian. After everyone left, Lin Xian used the art of longevity to quickly heal the wounds on his body and the spirit energy he had consumed. The spirit chi in the surroundings surged rapidly towards him, causing his body to glow. It didn't take long for him to recover. One day later, he learned from other warriors that after Ouyang Feng and Sun Yang had left that day, someone had attacked them. The 2 of them engaged in an earth-shattering battle before finally leaving. This greatly shocked Lin Xian. It seemed that other than him, there were other experts hidden in this forest. More and more geniuses arrived at the woods. However, he was not afraid. Instead, the blood in his body surged, and his eyes were full of fighting spirit, because he was very confident in himself. After that, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon continued their journey. Not long after, the 2 of them frowned. The reason for that was because they discovered a huge footprint in front of them. Furthermore, the footprints belonged to a human. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon looked at each other and saw the seriousness in each other's eyes. The dark red divine dragon's eyes flickered as he said in a deep voice, "Look at the footprints. Could it be the legendary giant clan? The giant clan? They actually exist in this forest too." Lin Xian's expression was also solemn. Then, the 2 of them walked forward again. Gradually, Lin Xian and the rest discovered that something was amiss. This was because they realized that the forest was too quiet. There was no sound at all. One had to know that this was really too strange. This was a primeval forest with countless monsters around. There would definitely be sounds of beasts roaring. But now there was no sound at all. It was as if all the monsters had disappeared. The dark red divine dragon shrunk his neck. Kid, this place is a little strange. Let's be careful. Lin Xian was also a little scared. This scene was too terrifying. The two of them walked carefully. An hour later, the surrounding forest gradually opened up. It was no longer a dense forest, but became sparse. There were even large open spaces in some places. What shocked the two of them even more was that there were huge footprints left on the ground. It was obvious that this was the living area of the giants. Pung pung pung. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble as if there was an earthquake. Then, a huge figure appeared in front of Lin Xian. Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw the figure. It was indeed a giant. It was dozens of meters tall and walked with a majestic gait. It was like a small mountain full of power. The young man who looked like a demonic beast, Ouyang Feng, was like a baby in front of this giant. Not only that, the giant was holding a huge mountain-splitting axe in one hand and a terrifying monster wolf in the other. But at this moment, it was already torn to pieces. That monster wolf was at least at the Demon King level. These giants were actually feeding on Demon Kings. One had to admit that it was truly terrifying. Not only that, Lin Xian's face became gloomy in the next moment. That was because he discovered that behind the giant, two more giants had appeared. At the same time, there was a figure standing on the shoulder of one of the giants. He was no stranger to that figure. It was the demon girl of the Demon King Palace, Zhao Tianxia. Damn it, why is this woman with these giants? Lin Xian frowned. He had been very uneasy since he let her escape last time. He didn't expect her to find these giants. Damn it, this woman must be eliminated. Lin Xian frowned. He realized that the other party was too mysterious. She could constantly summon powerful companions. Humph. Zhao Tianxia, who was on the giant in front, also had a sharp gaze. She discovered Lin Xian's existence. Then, a cold smile appeared on her beautiful face. Capture the two of them. I want them alive. Zhao Tianxia pointed into the distance and gave the order. Roar. Suddenly, the two giants let out angry roars. The sound was very terrifying. It was like a clap of thunder, shattering the surrounding clouds. Not only that, the two huge bodies also began to move. The entire ground shook violently. What the hell? This woman is crazy. The dark red dragon screamed. He didn't expect her to be able to command these giants. This was simply too unbelievable. Lin Xian's face also darkened. He couldn't understand how she did it. But he knew that he was in great danger now. The next moment he shouted coldly. His body swayed quickly and retreated. However, at this moment, huge figures appeared behind them, ready to block them. In an instant, four giants stood in all directions, trying to capture them. Chapter 1749. The four giants were like impenetrable walls, blocking Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon, completely surrounding them. Zhao Tianxia, on the other hand, pushed another giant to the front. Brat, you didn't expect this day to come, did you? How dare you be so rude to me before? This is unforgivable. But don't worry, as long as you obediently become my cauldron, I'll let you live. Otherwise, you'll be smashed into a bloody mist by these giants. Humph. Lin Xian snorted. Become their cauldron? How could he live? The other party was obviously trying to suck him dry. Do you think you can stop me with just four giants? What a joke. Lin Xian said coldly. Then he turned around and shot up into the sky like a bolt of lightning. Boom. The dark red divine dragon also turned into a red bolt of lightning and flew to the side. Trying to escape? Zhao Tianxia snorted, and then urged one of the giants to attack. Boom! A huge palm covered the sky and pounced on Lin Xian. The size of the palm was too terrifying. Even a 6-star king would not be able to survive if he was hit. However, Lin Xian was different. He had the extreme speed of the heavenly dragon's 8 steps, so at the critical moment he moved sideways. He quickly dodged the shocking attack. Boom! The palm missed and the void cracked. Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon shot up into the sky and left the encirclement. Then, the two turned into lightning and quickly moved into the distance. Chase after them, Zhao Tianxia shouted. She did not expect the other party to be able to escape her encirclement. However, so what if the other party could escape temporarily? With the help of these giants, she could definitely catch the other party. In the next moment, these giants began to run. They were like small mountains moving quickly. Although these giants were huge, they were not slow at all. They covered more than 100 feet in a single step. Their speed was shocking. Not only that, wherever they passed, the forest collapsed and the ground cracked, creating a terrifying scene. This kind of vibration finally attracted the attention of other martial artists. Many figures gathered over here. When they saw those enormous and terrifying giants, their scalps went numb, and a trace of fear appeared in their eyes. Heavens, what is this? Fuck. It's a giant. There are giants in this forest. Cries of surprise rang out one after another. However, when they saw Zhao Tianxia on the giant's shoulder, they were even more shocked. Isn't that woman Zhao Tianxia from the Demon Imperial Palace? She's actually with these giants. This is unbelievable. As a top force, the Fey Imperial Palace is incomparably mysterious. This Zhao Tianxia is a genius of the Fey Imperial Palace. He must have a secret technique that allows him to communicate with these giants. Some experts guessed the secret, but in any case, Zhao Tianxi's ability to control giants was truly shocking. This was especially true for the martial artists from the major forces. Each and every one of them wore solemn expressions. One had to know that the Almighty's cultivation levels were suppressed in this area, and they could no longer unleash their peak combat strength. However, it did not affect the relationship between the various major powers, because all the Almighties were suppressed. But now, Zhao Tianxia was actually able to control the terrifying giants. This undoubtedly increased the strength of the Fey Imperial Palace. For a moment, everyone was worried. They even secretly wondered if they could withstand the attacks of the giants. However, at this moment, someone exclaimed, "Look, these giants seem to be chasing someone." Hearing this, everyone hurriedly looked over. Sure enough, they saw two figures running quickly in front of them. What? It's him. Many people were shocked when they saw Lin Xian's figure. Who is this kid? Some of them did not know. Therefore, someone told them about the battle between Lin Xian and Ouyang Feng. Immediately, the surrounding martial artists gasped. They had heard of Ouyang Feng's strength. He was a humanoid demonic beast with infinite strength. He was extremely terrifying. However, the youth in front of them was actually able to defeat Ouyang Feng. It was simply too shocking. Needless to say, he was definitely an extremely powerful existence. The news of Zhao Tianxia controlling giants to chase after Ling Xian quickly spread. More and more martial artists gathered. On the other side, Lin Xian's figure was like lightning as he shuttled quickly with the dark red dragon. At this moment, one of the giants roared and grabbed a mountain peak. It ruthlessly smashed towards Lin Xian. This scene was simply too shocking. A mountain peak that was hundreds of feet tall was directly uprooted from the ground. One could imagine how terrifying these giants were. Boom! The huge mountain peak fell, forcing Lin Xian and the dark red dragon to change direction. However, this change in direction was caught up by the other two giants, and they were once again surrounded. Boom! A huge palm with astonishing energy slammed down ruthlessly. The other giant raised his foot and quickly stepped on Lin Xian. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Lin Xian and the dark red dragon used the heavenly dragon's 8 steps. Their speed was extremely fast as they constantly dodged. Finally, they narrowly avoided the attacks of the giants. The ground cracked open. It was extremely terrifying. The surrounding forest collapsed once again. At this moment, another giant rushed over and uprooted another mountain peak, sweeping it towards Lin Xian. Terrifying air waves rolled, and the void trembled. The momentum of this attack was extremely terrifying. As for Lin Xian and the dark red dragon, their speed was extremely fast, and they instantly disappeared before everyone's eyes. Damn it! Seeing that the other party had completely left their sight and disappeared without a trace, Zhao Tianxia was furious. She did not expect that the other party's speed would be so fast that even the giants could not catch up. The surrounding people felt their scalps go numb, and their expressions were horrified. The power displayed by these giants was simply too terrifying. Ordinary kings would not be able to withstand a single blow in front of them. Even those powerful demon kings would not be able to contend against these giants. For a moment, everyone looked at Zhao Tianxia with horrified expressions. However, they were also extremely shocked by Lin Xian's speed. The other party's speed was simply too fast. They could not keep up. It could be said that Lin Xian and Zhao Tianxia were existences that made people tremble. On the other side, Lin Xian completely avoided the attacks of these giants and entered the forest. After completely escaping from the pursuit of the giants, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon arrived at a safe place. Fuck! That woman is too despicable. She can actually control the giants. The dark red dragon's face darkened as he gritted his teeth. This time, it was fortunate that they had the heavenly dragon's 8 steps. Otherwise, they would not have been able to escape. Lin Xian's expression was also grave. He had to think of a way to get rid of these giants. Otherwise, their threat would be too great. Chapter 1750. Those giants were terrifying. Each of them was no weaker than a 6-star king. They might be able to fight one-on-one. However, if 5 giants attacked together, they would not be able to defeat them at all. It seemed that the best way was to find some powerful beasts to fight against these giants. Lin Xian said in a deep voice, "Think of a way. Can we make these giants fight with the beasts? Then we can reap the benefits." "That's a good idea." The dark red dragon's eyes were also shining. In the next few days, the two began to run around, looking for powerful monster kings. The 6-armed ape was one. Other than that, they also found a terrifying 3-headed lion. There was also a huge green-winged exotic beast. It was a terrifying beast. These monster kings were too powerful. Lin Xian could not subdue them at all. What he needed to do was to interfere with these monster kings. For example, he could use the 5-colored divine stone as bait for the 6-armed ape. The green-winged exotic beast could steal its egg and make it go berserk. As for the 3-headed lion, he needed the 1,000-beast cauldron and his heavenly secret superpower to cast an illusion. Since he had found a way, Lin Xian was ready to return to the giants to investigate the situation. However, before that, he, the little white monkey, and the dark red dragon stole the green-winged exotic beast's egg and lured it to the giant valley. At the same time, he pushed the 1,000-beast cauldron with all his strength to lure the 3-headed lion over. Then, he let the dark red dragon control the 1,000-beast cauldron and set up a few formations to hide the 3 powerful monster kings. He would wait until he had a thorough understanding of the giant valley before he prepared to take action. Soon, he came to the empty valley again. Even from afar, he could sense the terrifying aura emitted by those giants. However, this time, Lin Xian was more cautious than before. He restrained his aura and was like a ghost. No one noticed this process. However, the giant valley this time was a little different from before. The original giant valley was abnormally quiet. There was no movement at all. However, it was a little lively now. This was because there were many martial artists in the giant valley. It seemed that he was not the only one who had designs on the giant valley. However, the others did not dare to be as bold as him and directly start a war with the giant. Those people were probably here to seek refuge with Zhao Tianxia. After all, the giants were too terrifying. If they could borrow the power of the giants, they would be able to obtain heaven-defying benefits. Plus, there was Zhao Tianxia in the giant valley. It would be a great fortune to be able to take in such a beauty. Therefore, for a time, many martial artists flocked over. Zhao Tianxia didn't reject anyone who was willing to join him. From the looks of it, she wanted to build a powerful force in this forest. The current situation in the tilted moon profound world was very subtle. As for how long it would take for the profound world to open again, no one knew. As for those who entered the profound world, most of them were unable to pass through the Sea of Death and reach this land. Those who could come here were all elites. Under normal circumstances, the disciples of the major powers would not be worried at all. This was because they were followed by sect elders and mighty figures. But now, the Almighty's cultivation had been suppressed, so their safety was not guaranteed. Therefore, these people secretly began to form an alliance. Zhao Tianxia was no exception. Now that she had the giants, her strength had greatly increased. Naturally, she was the first to form an alliance in a high-profile manner. She believed that with the help of these giants and her charm techniques, she would be able to build a powerful force in this forest. At that time, all the treasures in this forest would belong to her. This woman's ambition was not small. Lin Xian snorted coldly and looked around again. But soon his face darkened. The reason for that was because he discovered that there was an enormous stele before the ravine. There were a few lines of words written on it. It meant that anyone who provided the whereabouts of Lin Xian would be rewarded handsomely. If they could capture him personally, Zhao Tianxia would spend the night with that martial artist. On the side there was a portrait of Lin Xian. This news directly stimulated the martial artists near the valley. Everyone's eyes were red. They wanted nothing more than to capture Lin Xian immediately. They had no choice. Spending a night with Zhao Tianxia, even if they were asked to die immediately, they would probably be willing. Lin Xian's face was gloomy. He did not expect the other party to come up with such a plan. It seemed that he had to deal with the giant valley first. Sure enough, once the news came out, more martial artists gathered in the valley, wanting to join Zhao Tianxi's organization. Of course, not everyone would come. Some disciples of the powerful sects would not form an alliance with others. Instead, they would form their own small groups. Some even wanted to make a move on Zhao Tianxia, because compared to Lin Xian, Zhao Tianxi's threat was too great. If she succeeded in forming an alliance, it would be difficult for others to resist. Sure enough, on the other side of the valley, Lu Mingyue was wearing a blue dress and was as beautiful as a fairy. However, at this moment, her expression was extremely solemn. Her eyes flickered as she looked into the distance. This Zhao Tianxia is really something. I didn't expect him to be able to gather such a huge force in such a short time. Humph, he's just borrowing the power of the giants. On the side, the pale young man's expression was cold. However, at this moment Lu Mingyue spoke again. I didn't expect Long Xian's strength to exceed our expectations. Indeed, that kid was able to defeat Ouyang Feng. I have to say, it's really surprising. I suspect that his surname isn't Long at all. He's very likely the Lin Xian, wanted by the Alcade Sacred Land. Lu Mingyue's eyes flickered. You're saying that he's the traitor of the Pill Sect? This time the pale young man Yin Qing was also shocked. If that's the case, then it makes sense. That kid was able to escape the Alcade Sacred Land's pursuit. He's probably not an ordinary person. I just didn't expect him to appear here. Don't worry, we don't need to do anything. Zhao Tianxia alone will make it difficult for Lin Xian to escape. Even if he escapes, the Alcade Sacred Land will definitely not let him go. Haha, does that mean he's dead for sure? Yin Qing's lips curled into a cold smile. Of course. Lu Mingyue nodded slightly then said, what about Ouyang Feng? Has his injuries healed? His injuries have already healed. I'm afraid he's already headed to the giant valley. What, he's really gone? Lu Mingyue was also surprised. Could he really subdue the giants? I don't know, but as a warrior of the Four Symbols Sacred Land, Ouyang Feng has a trace of the giant's bloodline in his body. Chapter 1751. After observing for a long time, Lin Xian decided to make a move. He turned into a ghost and flew into the valley. Soon he arrived at the giant valley. Wuji the snow-white monkey also jumped out. In the depths of the valley, the aura was heavy as if there were countless huge creatures, causing the entire void to freeze. Fortunately, Lin Xian was powerful and had the great dragon sword soul in his body. He was not afraid of this aura at all. This allowed him to move quickly. Lin Xian and the rest did not go to the center. Instead, they began to explore the surroundings. He had to figure out how many giants there were and how many warriors there were. He also had to take a look at the number of warriors. However, at this moment, the snow-white monkey was very excited. It turned into a ray of white light and rushed forward. Little White, come back quickly. Lin Xian transmitted his voice, afraid that Little White would attract the attention of others. At the same time, he also used the Heavenly Dragon's 8 steps. Swoosh swoosh. The snow-white monkey landed on the ground. Lin Xian quickly approached it. Wu ji, the snow-white monkey bared its teeth and pointed at a place in front of it. It turned out that the ground in front of them was full of potholes. However, in one of the potholes, there was a ray of light. Not only that, but there was also a wave of pure energy accompanying it. Lin Xian was shocked. He and the snow-white monkey quickly walked forward. Such pure energy. Lin Xian looked at the pool of liquid on the ground in shock. Little White quickly spat out the 5-colored divine stone to let it absorb the energy in the liquid. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 5-colored divine stone jumped and absorbed the energy quickly. It was like a heart, releasing a 5-colored ray of light. As if it felt that it was not enough, Little White lowered its head and drank a mouthful. Immediately, it revealed a satisfied smile. Its big eyes narrowed into the shape of a crescent moon. Lin Xian also took a little and tasted it. He was shocked. This energy is comparable to a divine crystal. Could it be a divine crystal liquid? Lin Xian guessed that the liquid was most likely a divine crystal. It was just that it had not formed into a crystal. He did not expect there to be such a treasure here. It seemed that he had made the right choice this time. The 5-colored divine stone was very mysterious, as it quickly absorbed the divine crystal liquid. Soon he finished absorbing the energy. Lin Xian could clearly feel that the 5-colored divine stone had become incomparably resplendent and filled with energy. It seemed that he only needed to go back and absorb the energy in the 5-colored divine stone again. Lin Xian was overjoyed. He searched again and found some more nerve fluid. He also let the 5-colored divine stone absorb all of it. Then, he placed the breeze exotic beast's egg in the valley. At the same time, he and the little white monkey quickly left to meet up with the dark red divine dragon. The dark red dragon removed the array formation and used the 10,000 beast cauldron to interfere with the 3-headed lion. The first to go berserk was the breeze beast. It immediately sensed that its egg was in the valley ahead. Thus he roared and flew over. Next was the 3-headed lion. Under the interference of the 1,000 beast cauldron, it madly charged forward. The 6-armed divine ape was personally controlled by Lin Xian. Lin Xian took the 5-colored divine stone and flew towards the valley ahead. The 6-armed divine ape's eyes turned red when it sensed the energy of the 5-colored divine stone. In the next moment, it roared and waved its 6 arms, roaring at the valley ahead. Boom! 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 In an instant, the entire valley shook violently. Countless mountains collapsed and huge rocks rolled down. Who dares to trespass into the giant valley? Do you want to die? Soon, a figure flew out from the valley and roared coldly. He was a martial artist who had just joined the giant valley. Now that he knew something was wrong outside, he naturally came to take a look. However, in the next moment, his scalp went numb and he looked terrified. That was because he realized that there were 3 huge creatures rushing towards the valley. Those were 3 terrifying demonic beasts. Their demonic aura was monstrous, and they were not any weaker than the giants. Seeing this, the martial artist's scalp went numb. He turned around and ran into the valley. However, in the next moment, a green light lit up. Then a huge wind blade cut him in half. The breeze beast roared and was the first to rush into the valley. Behind him, the 3-headed lion and the 6-armed divine ape also rushed into the valley. Lin Xian used the heavenly dragon's 8 steps and quickly left the valley to meet up with the dark red divine dragon and the rest. Then they looked into the distance. The valley in front of them exploded in an instant. The terrifying aura formed a huge pillar of light that shot up into the sky. Terrifying roars could be heard. Like thunder, they reverberated through the entire forest. Countless martial artists rushed into the sky, trying to escape. In short, it was a mess. Let's go. Lin Xian's scalp went numb when he saw this. He did not dare to enter the valley at all. It had become a forbidden place for the dead. Therefore, in the next moment, he, the dark red divine dragon, and the little white monkey quickly left. It was a restless night, because a huge battle had broken out in the valley. 5 giants and 3 extremely powerful demon kings started fighting. It was a terrifying battle. It affected half of the forest. Even the martial artists in the distance rushed over to watch the battle. They did not expect that someone would dare to attack the giant valley. It was too shocking. One had to know that a few days ago, the strength of the 5 giants was too terrifying. No one could fight against them. However, they did not expect that just a few days later, someone would attack. They even successfully attracted the attention of the 3 demon kings. The battle was terrifying. It lasted for an entire night. It was not until the next morning that the 3 demon kings left. As for the consequences, they were also extremely terrifying. The entire valley was razed to the ground. Not only that, but all the surrounding forest was also destroyed. More than half of the martial artists who originally joined the giant valley were killed in this battle. The remaining ones were also injured, and their expressions were incomparably ugly. Of the 5 giants, 1 was killed directly, 2 were seriously injured, and 2 were lightly injured. It could be said that it was a disastrous battle. The 3 demon kings also retreated with serious injuries. In an instant, the news of the giant valley swept through the entire forest like a gust of wind. Zhao Tianxi's face was gloomy. She was about to go crazy. Previously, with the strength of the 5 giants, she was able to quickly gather a large group of martial artists and establish a powerful force. However, she did not expect the giant valley to be destroyed in just a few days. Not only that, but one of the giants was killed directly. The others were also injured, and their strength was greatly reduced. The martial artists that she found were also mostly injured. It could be said that the heavy losses this time made her even more embarrassed. Needless to say, she was now the laughing stock of the entire forest. She didn't even see clearly who did it. However, according to her guess, it was most likely her enemy Lin Xian. Chapter 1752. Previously, he had sneaked into the giant valley and communicated with one of the giants. He had almost convinced the other party. However, he did not expect that such a battle would occur. Therefore, not only did he fail to communicate, but he was also injured in the battle. This battle was like a storm that swept through the surroundings. Everyone was guessing who was the one who did it. For a moment, everyone was in danger. Lin Xian, who was the one who did it, found a cave and chose to go into seclusion. The outside world was in chaos, while Lin Xian and the other 2 hid in a safe place, absorbing the energy in the 5-colored divine stone to increase their cultivation. The 5-colored divine stone was extremely mysterious. Ever since it absorbed the energy of the divine crystal liquid, it was filled with a pure aura. On it, the 5-colored light turned into pure energy for Lin Xian and the others to absorb. Lin Xian activated the art of longevity and continuously absorbed the 5-colored energy, transforming it into his own power. Finally, when the 5-colored divine stone became dim again, Lin Xian stopped absorbing. Then he opened his eyes and felt that his cultivation had increased by a lot. It was as if he had absorbed a divine crystal. Looking at the time, Lin Xian felt that the commotion outside was about to end. It was time to go out and take a look. Therefore, he and the dark red divine dragon carefully went out. As expected, the news of the battle in the giant valley a few days ago gradually died down. However, the atmosphere in the primeval forest all day long had become extremely tense. That was because someone had found a psychic old herb. The previous battle was because of an old herb of the same age. However, that kind of thing was very difficult to find. Everyone had searched for so many days, but still could not find it. However, they did not expect that someone would find it again this time. It was a purple divine medicine that shone brightly. Its entire body was glowing, and its shape was like a dragon horse. It was full of spirituality. Its strength was even extremely powerful. That was because this psychic old herb was considered a plant-type monster. In addition to having powerful magical effects, it could also cultivate. In fact, some could even cultivate to an extremely terrifying realm. Rumor had it that the great emperor would have an immortal herb by his side. That immortal herb was extremely heaven-defying and could allow the great emperor to live a second life. Not only that, but those immortal herbs were even more terrifying, and they could even kill saints. While the spirit channeling old herb before him couldn't compare to the immortal herb, it was still a terrifying existence. The first psychic medicine, that looked like a dragon horse, was discovered by Lu Mingyue and the others. Lu Mingyue and the others had been searching for traces of the Tonglin old medicine all along, and were finally discovered by them. However, they underestimated the strength of the psychic old medicine. Therefore, due to his carelessness, he actually allowed the dragon horse psychic medicine to escape. After this, Lu Mingyue was extremely vexed, because she was the one who was most likely to be the first to obtain the psychic old medicine. However, he missed this opportunity. However, the others were incomparably excited. After searching for so long, he finally found the psychic old herb again. To them, this was undoubtedly an extremely exciting piece of news. As a result, many people once again began to search wantonly. However, after so many days had passed, no one had found the spirit communicating old herb. It was as if the spirit communicating old herb in the shape of a dragon horse had evaporated into thin air. Everyone was speculating about the whereabouts of the psychic old herb. Some people said that it hid in a valley. Some people said that it escaped underground and disappeared. There were also people who said that it left this place and went to the depths of the forest. There was even a rumor that this kind of psychic old herb had an incomparably powerful demon king guarding it. All in all, for a time, these psychic old herbs were rumored to be incomparably mysterious. This stimulated everyone even more. Battles broke out from time to time during the search. In the end, the psychic old herb was not found, but there were already many martial artists who lost their lives in this battle. In fact, even Lin Xian and the dark red divine dragon also started to search for the spirit communicating old herb. After searching for a few days, they did not have any harvest either. But very soon, another matter attracted the attention of Lin Xian and the others. Not just Lin Xian, even all the martial artists in the entire forest were all alarmed. Because the black sea in the distance suddenly bloomed with black light, blotting out the sky and covering the earth, as if it was the netherworld. Following that, one mysterious Dao mark after another emerged, carrying a mysterious aura. Accompanying it was a low and deep voice. "Ignorant outsider, you shall be buried on this island forever." This voice was very low and deep, and incomparably aged. Seal. In the next moment, those Dao marks quickly intertwined and combined to form a powerful seal, completely sealing the entire sea. What's going on? What are those seals? Who's talking? Get out here. Angry roars sounded one after another. Obviously, everyone was stunned by this scene. Natives, damn it, it's actually the natives. It was unknown who shouted, but it instantly caused boundless panic. Naturally, they knew about the existence of the natives. Previously in the Sea of Death, they were attacked, and most of the martial artists lost their lives there. However, so many days had passed, and the natives did not attack again, so they had forgotten about this matter. They thought that there were probably only a few natives in this space, and they did not pose a threat to them at all. But now, they did not expect the natives to appear again. Not only that, but they even directly sealed the sea. Who are you trying to scare? Do you think you can seal it just because you said so? An old man did not believe it. In the next moment, his body bloomed with a bright light, like a sharp sword light, rushing into the sky and flying towards the Sea of Death in the distance. This old man was not an ordinary person. He was a mighty figure. Although his cultivation was suppressed, his combat strength was far beyond that of a 6-star king. At this moment, his figure swayed and rushed towards the Sea of Death, attracting everyone's attention. Everyone held their breaths, wanting to see if the sea was really sealed as the natives said. Or could the mighty figure break the seal? Their safety and future were at stake. In front of them, the mighty figure old man's figure was like lightning, and he soon arrived at the sea. "What seal? Watch me break it." He roared and struck out with both palms. 2 terrifying palms erupted with shocking light that swept through the world. The terrifying energy directly pierced through the sea. This palm was too terrifying. It could easily kill a 6-star king. However, the terrifying palm hit the seal and did not cause any waves at all. Not only that, the The seal was hit and flickered with a strange light. Then, it formed a terrifying bolt of lightning that instantly pierced through the mighty figure. Poof! The mighty figure old man's body fell into the sea, and his blood dyed the sea red. What? He was killed. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.